Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Make We Talk here on the Make We Talk YouTube channel. This evening, we're going to speak about, is Jamaica on the verge of becoming a dictatorship? We don't know, based on what is going on. We see what is going on in El Salvador and other countries around the world. We don't know. This evening, I have with me Wilfred Rattigan, the rebel talk show host, attorney at law, former FBI agent. Conrad O'Brien, the fireman, dub him as the fireman of Newstalk 93 FM. And we have with us the senior of all seniors in the house, Dr. Rupert Francis. A man who don't mince word either, to cuss off the Labour Party too. When it comes to doing it, he does it. Gentlemen, unmute your mic, because we're gonna dig deep in this thing. Is Jamaica on the brink of becoming a dictatorship state? We're gonna start with the fireman himself from Newstalk 93 FM. Unmute your mic for me, fireman.
Yes.
There you go.
Good. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Here at home in Jamaica, indeed in the diaspora and across the world. Good evening to my esteemed panelists here, the host himself, the man, Jeffrey Tavares, the defender, and of course, the rebel himself, Wilfred Rattigan, and my good friend, man who always carried a fight and bat on behalf of the people in the diaspora, Dr. Rupert Francis. I say, hail the man. It is indeed a wonderful evening right here in Jamaica. Nice temperature, the weather is blowing nicely. It's actually getting into a rather romantic kind of atmosphere going into the Christmas season. Now, this evening, as Jeffrey said, we are looking at topical issue. Is Jamaica on the verge of becoming a dictatorship? Some people here in Jamaica dubbing what is taking place as a crawling peg dictatorship. And there are a number of reference points that we can basically touch, or we will touch this evening. Before I get into that, because I just want to leave that there and allow the other panelists to weigh in, but before I get there, I also want to just touch something that is not on the roster, but indeed very, very topical right here in Jamaica. The whole business of the private security guards. As you know, the courts of Jamaica ruled and they being treated as employees rather than contractors. Therefore, from that ruling out of the court, although it was a ruling against one company, but it follows through that all security companies are captured under that ruling. Now, the security guards have been expecting their benefit for some time now. Nothing forthcoming.
Hold on for me, Conrad, because both Dr. Francis and the rebel himself has to switch over to another item that they have on their agenda. Let us get them in. Rebel?
Okay, great.
Yes, it is indeed my great fortune and pleasure to be on this esteemed panel with people like the fireman, Dr. Francis, and of course, the people defender. And, you know, the question is whether or not Jamaica is going on that slippery slope to being a dictatorship. And it's hard to look at the situation in Jamaica and not at least have some concerns. Because when you look at the way the country has been governed, in terms of human rights, civil rights, and other rights, you have to really wonder, is this the Jamaica that we're used to? When you look at the proposed Bail Act, when you look at the new Firearms Act, and you see the gaping holes in there, in those bills, you start to really wonder, is this Jamaica? Because this is not the Jamaica that we've grown to love and the Jamaica that we've accustomed to. When you start issuing these states of emergency willy-nilly, without any plan, without any care for a community, when you say that you know who the violence producers are, and instead of going after them, you've inconvenienced entire communities across the island, it is indeed a sad day. And it's a day for reflection. And it's a day for concern. And so I'm looking forward to joining this discussion and putting in my 2 cents. And at the same time, looking forward to learning from my panelists. And if we should have callers, then that's okay too. But I'm always looking to learn, I'm looking to share, and tonight will be no different. Thank you for having me, Mr. Tavares, the defender, the people's defender. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The esteemed gentleman of the Jamaican diaspora, our good friend, the senior in the house, Dr. Rupert Francis. Dr. Francis, give me your opening remarks before I let you go to another item that you have on your agenda. And I hope when you finish with that item, you come right back here. Dr. Rupert Francis, go ahead, sir.
Good evening to all of my friends. That includes you, Brother Tavares. Keep everybody how old I am. But that's fine. I'm good with that. I just want to say that I'm in the presence of Conrad and Will. You know, I learn a lot from them. I listen to their program. Conrad, we haven't spoken for a while, but I listen to you, and you guys are spot on. And I've also sent the record. My concern is apart from the dictatorship angle, which seems to me that where we would be heading to that path, is the fact that you have people who are ready to endorse things that are said by the Prime Minister and other members of government when there's no. We were told recently that, for example, murders have gone down since after the SOE, gone up since the SOEs have been stopped. But the fact of the matter is that is because we've had a number of murders still happening in spite of them. And in fact, there's a migration within Jamaica to other areas of Jamaica by these persons. Now, one of the things that concerned me a lot is that to us know that we love Jamaica and we want the best for Jamaica. But when you look at the United States and you see, for example, that most are here, I'm wondering where that information is. Okay? That's right, but I think that Jamaica is so porous. Jamaica has so many things happening, and people who you don't recognize are dons, maybe bigger dons than the mafioso. As far as I'm concerned, you know, they need to look into themselves and tell the truth to themselves, because these things cannot operate. And my basic comment, cannot operate without collusion, without cooperation, without collaboration with what should I say? And don't believe that because you may wear a collar, or you may be in the judiciary, or you may be in whatever you put in, that you're not culpable. Because if you turn a blind eye to things like that, or your son or your daughter, somebody's involved, then you're just as culpable. And we have to hold them. In addition to it, one last point here, in addition to which, nobody is being held accountable. Because if you incarcerate somebody in Jamaica, them to that mythical island behind me there with the breeze blowing. You understand me? There's no punishment. You know, it's like a reward. You know, and so that concerns me, that when you can ignore by example shall lead. Anyway, that's my thoughts for the time being. Thank you very much.
No, I was just saying that we're having some signal problem with you. Your signal going in and out because of the breeze blowing behind you. And maybe the little part of why you talk.
I'm gonna change the medium where I'm gonna be using, so we can reverse that and you'll see a better shot. Okay, good.
Yes, sir. Good, appreciate it.
Okay.
Fireman, you know, before I go to the fireman, Mr. Rattigan, let me ask you a question. You're a Jamaican citizen. Take off your FBI hat and your attorney at law hat and put on the citizen of Jamaica who doesn't have any vum vavon and vum vavi behind their name. You're a Jamaican citizen. Let me ask you this question. Where do you see this country going? In the sense of the SOE, the Prime Minister is in Washington meeting with the members of the State Department and other members of the diplomatic corps and all sorts of things. And they're Jamaican citizens in America who are former FBI agents, former law enforcement agents, and other things. Do you see Jamaica going down a road as a Cuba, a Peru, you know, a dictatorship? Where do you see this country going?
I'm trying, Defender, I'm trying not to see it in that light. Jamaica has unlimited potential. You just look at the culture, the people, the natural resources. Well, we don't have bauxite anymore and banana, but I mean, it's such a beautiful and a wonderful country. It's paradise. And so I'm trying not to see it, in light of a Cuba and maybe a Venezuela and so on and so forth. But you have to admit that Jamaica is lacking leadership. What Jamaica has right now is a lot of managers, and they're not doing the job of managing well either. But they really don't have any leadership. They don't have anybody who can inspire people, somebody who can, who can get people to act beyond their own bounds. Even the police, for example, we don't have any leadership there. And then when you have countless incidents of corruption, and you don't hear the Prime Minister speaking out on it, it leads you to believe that something is going on, but it's not something good, because he's said time and time again that he's about transparency and being forthright and being honest and open, and he's going to stamp out the scourge of corruption. But then on a regular basis, you hear about corruption in his administration. And then he's absent. He's not there to say, folks, listen, I have this under control. It's my fault. I appointed the wrong person. I'm going to take care of this. In fact, he's given some of these people, what do you call it? A vote of confidence. So to answer your question in a nutshell, I don't want to see it there. I'm trying not to see it going there. And so I'm hopeful that we can turn this thing around, whether with this government, another government, the assistance of foreign partners, I don't know, but it cannot continue like this, because if it continues like this, we're going to be looking at something unpleasant, very unpleasant for the masses.
I'll let Fireman answer the last point, but let us get Dr. Francis in. Dr. Francis, unmute your mic for me, please.
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Yes, sir. Do you see this country of ours, the land of wood and water, the land of our birth, do you see this country becoming a Venezuela or a Cuba based on the current leadership?
Honestly, to be quite honest with you, I am going to say that at the moment, I would not say we are going to go there, because I think that there are more pragmatic people in the country. However, the stage has been set. The stage has been set, and I believe that as I said before, I closed earlier, that if you do not have proactive leadership, and we're always accepting, what should I say, or not making the right pronouncements, we are going to be in a problem. There's no question. You know, if we're not, because sooner or later, it will be the tail wagging the dog. You see? So the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So we're saying stop the good intentions. You have people who can advise you. You know where the problems are. You should, as a leader, get up there and make But here's the thing. I just got a message that I have to join the Zoom.
Yes, I know. So I'll let you go now and come back on. Okay. As soon as you finish from that TV station, come right back to this TV station here, Mr. Francis. The fireman and myself will continue fight the fight until the rebel and the senior come back to speak to us about is Jamaica on the verge of becoming a dictatorship. Rattigan will be right back. Dr. Francis will be right back. Our good friend, my good friend here, Conrad O'Brien, your take on the whole thing. Do you think Jamaica is on the verge of becoming a dictatorship, sir?
All right. First of all, I'd like to say that I, for one, understand that there are issues that we were sold on back in the past as it relates to Cuba. And as a result of that, some of us paint Cuba in a negative light. However, based on the embargoes and so on that has been carried out by the United States, we have seen where Cuba has managed to make itself a progressive country in spite of, with a net sum of most doctors per capita, their educational quotient and so on, right up there, and all of those sort of things. So I believe first that Jamaica would do a good job if they were able to take some of those principles from Cuba. We have seen where Cuba would have gone all across the globe, help out people when they have issues, etc., because they have basically invest in their people. We have also seen where Venezuela step up to the plate and help out people in the Petro-Caribbean, and we may have issues with their governance structures and so on. But I am seeing Jamaica moving more the path of in terms of from its economic point of view and so on, more in the realm of Haiti. But coupled with that, we are seeing heavy-handedness. And while we may be some distance away from being a dictatorship, but we are seeing what I would like to describe as a...
Mr. O'Brien, you're muted. You're muted, Mr. O'Brien. Unmute your mic. Conrad O'Brien, you're muted. Unmute your mic for me, please.
The point.
Yes.
What's the point? In that several constitutional breach have taken place. And once you go down the road of starting to breach the Constitution and even show scant regard to ruling out of the court, then certainly we're on a slippery slope. We have seen the state of emergency being used as some would say, the only tool from the toolbox in terms of national security. At one point, we had state of emergency for 1 year and 3 months, consistently, non-stop. And we're at a point now on a very, very slippery slope, my brother, defender, where as soon as persons within media, within the opposition, within other human rights body, etc., once you open your mouth and you dare to offer a different viewpoint, no less a person than the Prime Minister himself take you on, start name calling, and start to refer to you as someone who's supporting criminal and don't want and want to say bloodletting. That is the kind of ignoramus that is taking place. This morning, I heard colleague talk show host Simon Crosskill and his program, and he had to use words like saying that the PM is thinking rank to dare to say that decent people in Jamaica who said, listen, the state of emergency is not the way to go, and they don't support it. They are indeed supporting murderers and criminals. And that is a very, very slippery slope that we're going on, because what it can do is pitch one Jamaican against the other. And on the other hand, the Prime Minister talk about consensus, but it is an empty word whenever the Prime Minister uses it, because the Prime Minister uses consensus conveniently. When the time comes for the Prime Minister to basically collaborate and have a real meaningful dialogue with the opposition, he is nowhere to be found.
And the question must be asked also, Conrad O'Brien. Is it that the people of this country must not say anything pertaining or criticize the Prime Minister of this country?
Well, there you go. And that is where the whole business of the dictatorship is basically raising its ugly head. Because one of the things that democracies strive on is difference of opinion. And someone needs to remind the Prime Minister that when he was in opposition, he basically opposed every single sanitary thing. As a matter of fact, at one point, he was asked in an interview, why was he politicizing crime? And he said, indeed, it was a political matter. So someone needs to remind the Prime Minister of all of these things. Someone needs to remind the Prime Minister that just to avoid Jamaica sign on to the appellate court of the CCJ, appellate section of the CCJ, he did something unconstitutional, which was to have all his senators signed on an undated resignation letter. Therefore, it means that once you take side with the opposite, with the government then, which was the PNP, then you would automatically resign, because he would have that letter, and all you would need to do is to slot a date in, and your resignation would be effective. That the court of Jamaica ruled that unconstitutional. And we could go on and cite other occasions, other breaches by the Prime Minister of Jamaica as it relates to the Constitution.
And that is to show us, that is to tell us, that from the beginning, he gave us a limelight by saying to us, I am going to do everything unconstitutional. The first thing he did was to sign and date a letter.
Well, Mr. My friend, Mr. Tavares, defender, I am saying this to you that I can't fault you for that observation, because the Prime Minister had basically telegraphed this position from he was in opposition. From he was in opposition, he actually telegraphed that. And remember now, that was when the fallout started with people like Christopher Tufton and so on, so much that there was an argument heralded within the Labour Party that the Prime Minister don't like bright people around him. And one has to take in consideration that all these measures that are taking place in Jamaica, it impacts the people. People used to say below crossroad, but now things getting so tight that they're saying below halfway tree. That's where we are. It's impacting those people, because what we're seeing here in Jamaica is a replica of the two Jamaica getting wider and wider by way of income, by way of how people are treated with people that wield power. We have about 60% of our people who are living on $9,000 per week. Those are the things that the Prime Minister should be busy addressing and find way to grow the economic pie here in Jamaica so that more and more of our people can be better off. And that in itself would help to alleviate some of the crime that we're seeing in Jamaica. Granted, you will always have crime, but if you provide better economic opportunity for people, then a lot of people may not go that route. Because, you know, when you think about 9,000 Jamaican dollars defender, you know,
yes,
the cost of living here.
Of course. I mean, you know, let me make a welcome all my viewers and listeners on Jam Vibes Radio, and also my viewers on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel, viewers on Jeffrey Tavares Facebook page and Twitter page. We're listening and watching from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean. We're speaking to the fireman of Newstalk 93 FM, Conrad O'Brien. We're going to be joined by Wilfred Rattigan, the rebel, and also Dr. Rupert Francis. But right now we're speaking, the topic for tonight is Jamaica on the verge of becoming a dictatorship based on what is going on in our country?
And let's examine, you know, and you can remind our viewers and listeners that if they wish to weigh in, there's a number that they can call. That number is active?
No, that number for some reason is not working. It is only my private number is working. I don't want to give up my private number at all.
Okay. So we are unable to take calls tonight.
Yes, I would love to take calls, but I cannot give up my private number at all.
All right.
The other number for some reason not working.
No problem. Remember now that this conversation has gotten to this stage by what we saw on Monday, where the Prime Minister decides that he will go it alone. He will ignore the opposition. He will not seek any cooperation or have any dialogue with the opposition because the opposition dare to vote against the continuation of the SOE in the upper house 2 weeks ago. And the Prime Minister has gone down the slippriest of slope that he was warned against by many constitutional lawyers, people like Dr. Light Barnett and other folks basically talked about it. As a matter of fact, his own Deputy Prime Minister, who was there at the press conference, actually said to go the state of emergency in this format that the PM is doing it is bad, poor governance. And he was there.
Then Conrad
Yes.
O'Brien, the
Yes,
Deputy Prime Minister, who is the Minister of National Security,
yes,
is saying that his boss, who is the Prime Minister of Jamaica and the Chief of Defense, and the Chief of Defense. No, he's the Minister of Defense.
The Minister of Defense,
The Minister of Defense. If he's saying that his boss should not be going it alone, then something is fundamentally wrong somewhere. Is it that the Prime Minister don't listen to people who speak to him or advise him?
Well, you know, it begs a question because even and there's something else that's brewing. The regulation under which the SOE was announced, it was basically flawed, and it had to be withdrawn. It was said, and the flimsy excuse that we got this time is what we got before, that it went to the printry with flawed and it had to be withdrawn. So this state of emergency is in place without a regulation.
So isn't that against the law and unconstitutional?
Well, there you go. There you go. There you go. And I'm really awaiting my friend, the rebel attorney at law, Wilfred Rattigan. As a matter of fact, as I look at my television screen here, I'm seeing himself and I'm also seeing Dr. Rupert Francis. They're weighing in because, as you know, the Prime Minister is now in Washington to meet with security personnel, including people from the FBI and so on. But here you have a Jamaican, a most qualified Jamaican, Wilfred Rattigan, who has basically offered himself many other people from the diaspora, and they were scoffed at, including many other people. We don't have to call names, but a lot of people of expertise and so on. And, but let's see what will come of this, because indeed, is it that the Prime Minister reckoned that his administration is certainly at its wit's end and cannot do anything to salvage this crime monster? So he is now looking for help overseas without televising that to the Jamaican people.
Well, he did say it in his press conference that he's going to Washington to meet with the members of the Justice Department and members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But the question must be asked, Mr. O'Brien. The Prime Minister is going overseas to ask for help. Where is how much billions of dollars that's given to the Ministry of National Security to fight crime in Jamaica? Where is that money going? If it's more money, you're not gonna beg. Then if you not give it to him.
Well, I don't want to make that kind of pronouncement, because as far as I'm concerned, I am really, on Team Jamaica. And if we are getting any form of assistance from overseas that will help to curb the crime situation, including financial help, then certainly I'll support that. However, what we need to ask for proper checks and balance. And I believe that not just in the Ministry of National Security, but in other ministries, to include the Ministry of Health and so on, certainly time it's probably the most opportune time for us to ask for some amount of forensic audit, because we heard from the AG herself as to how $400 million were either not spent or spent inappropriately. And we need some better and further particulars on that. I am on record saying that I had expected and anticipated that we would come up with this kind of problem after the COVID-19 situation, because what happened, it lends itself for all sorts of skullduggery to take place, because people can draw all sorts of wool over your eyes and say, listen, there was an emergency situation, so they were doing the procurement, etc., etc. So how you keep track and those things is by way of proper audit. We had the opening salvo from the Attorney General's office. I'm sorry, the AG office, the Accountant General office. However, we may very well need much more meat on the bone by way of further digging into this by way of forensic audit.
But I personally believe that every single government entity in Jamaica, in our country, need to be audited.
Yes, you have.
Especially, I don't cut you, especially the Ministry of Labor. The Ministry of Labor need to audit the whole thing when it comes on to the PAD program money. We don't want to drift off the main topic for tonight. But what is going on with the Ministry of Labor? A lot of people don't realize that the poor people in our country who get the little chip and tape in a month time, every month or whatever time they get it. They go through hell and powder house to get the little chip and tape in it to buy it in a dirty girl. They line up in a line. And the security guard them down, they disrespect the poor old people them, along with the members of the Ministry of Labor. And Minister calls someone, they're not doing a damn thing about it. You call till a ton fool. It's saying we're not doing a thing about the farm workers of our country who is shipped away into modern day slavery. He's not doing nothing about it.
Well, you know, I'll respond to you this way. The Ministry of Labor need to do a lot of things. And again, we're talking about Jamaica being on the scuff, or we're seeing signs of Jamaica becoming a dictatorship. We're seeing incident resembling, you know, where we could slip into dictatorship and fascism, as the opposition leader described it, the behavior of the PM and his government. However, as my friend and colleague, defender, Jeffrey Tavares put forward there, that the Ministry of Labor certainly is one of the ministry that we need to look at and what it is doing for the senior citizens of Jamaica. For example, what I know is that the NIS have been there for some years now, and there has been no increase. And when you look at what inflation has done to that pittance, and believe me, a number of people in Jamaica, that's the only thing that some of them are living off, because they don't have a regular pension. So what they have is that little NIS, and believe me, it is certainly of no use. So all of those things are
and that beg to ask the question, Conrad O'Brien. When politicians leaving to go on their retirement, they get more than a little chip and halfpenny that the poor of our country is getting. The poor of our country that him can buy, as I said before, a tin of dirty girl, or 3 pound of chicken back, chicken chassis.
Well, certainly, that not just our politicians, but you have a number of other persons that would obviously get a much better handshake than a lot of people who are just on an NIS pension, because that's the reason in the first place why they are just on NIS, because they had no other form of pension before. They were contributors to a private pension scheme, and obviously the workplace probably did not have that kind of setup for them. So the persons in government would basically go off into the sunset with with some amount of money that they can maybe survive on. Certainly, we are aware that the prime ministers will continue to receive the equivalent of what they're getting as of what the serving prime minister is getting. So that cohort is quite safe as it relates to ministers and MP. And so once you are qualified after 2 years of being a member of parliament, I think you're pensionable.
And meanwhile, the poor pauperizing people of the country getting sitting with nothing can pay a JPS bill. And they're talking about a 2030 vision to live and work where?
Well, it gets worse. It gets worse, my friend. And as Dr. Francis and Mr. Rattigan will rejoin momentarily, what we will get back to the main issue. But I think what we're doing right now, we are doing some amount of free flow. So I wanted to make the point at the opening, just to mention the situation with the security guards. That's another group of people in Jamaica that going through the pangs of hell, working long hours, no overtime or no double time or anything. The court has just ruled on that they are to be treated as employees, because right now they are treated as contractors, and that means they are void of all the benefit that they're supposed to get, including health insurance, including leave with pay, maternity leave with pay, etc., etc. And the security companies are floating the decision that was handed down by the court of Jamaica. They are floating it. They went into a meeting today, or was it? Yeah, today, I gather. And Mr. Gray, Teddy Lee Gray, I think he represented the security guards. But suffice it to say that they came out of that meeting that they were in with a settlement or an understanding that the companies would start the payment April of next year, while the liquor security officers were anticipated that they would get something so they can put an extra £3 of chicken chassis, as you call it, on the table.
And a tin of dirty girl.
And a tin of dirty girl.
Yes. The country, listen to me. Dr. Rupert Francis, unmute your mic for me.
Yes.
If this is the country that me and you, for me and for your pupa banina, you see, if our forefathers should come alive now and see what we're going through in this country, then ball. Dr. Rupert Francis?
You know, let me say this.
Go ahead.
Tavares, let me say this to you. You know, I would just ask a question as to whether we don't think the people in Jamaica understand what's at stake. And I was just being kind of nice by saying, yes, you understand, but I really don't understand if they really understand. Because when you look at the incidents that are taking place, you talk about the security guards, that's one thing, right? But when you think about the police, I mean, how the hell are you going to stop a bullet with a basket, with a trash, what do you call it? You know, like a basket where you make with bamboo. Where you going to do a bullet coming at X amount of miles per hour? Impossible. A banker, thank you very much. Right? And then, how are you going to tell a policeman that in order to become, you have to buy your own shoes?
And yet you have a prime minister telling the people of this country that they have equipped the police force, they have equipped the JDF. Yes, they equipped the JDF because you know what happens, so you equip the JDF. But I'm giving out a warning tonight, you know.
No. Listen to me, my friend.
Hold on, Dr. Francis. I'm giving out a warning tonight. The country is in need of leadership.
Well,
and the people of our country will not stand by anymore and allow the Prime Minister came out and said that people, whenever we talk, we're politically motivated and we're political activists. When me, Jeffrey Tavares, not political activist, I'm a defender of the poor people of my country.
Listen to me. Let me tell you something. I have never asked anybody. Conrad can tell you. Will Rattigan can tell you. I have never asked your political affiliation. I know your name, Tavares. You're born in the belly of the labor rights, okay? So
whatever you want, so that's your business. My back country, we can't go need a 7 or 11.
Listen, you talk about people talk. You want to talk, you know, want me to talk. But you call me Wilmot, and I was born, my people are born at the belly of the PNP, Rupert Wilmot. That's why I'm named after. Okay? So you can open your eye wide. So me telling you this, and I represented the Jamaica Labour Party on 3 occasions. And I'm not afraid to tell anybody that. Okay? Missing equal rights and justice like you did. But the point I'm trying to make is this. If we really mean the motto of Jamaica, and we really mean the eternal Father, bless our land, right? We must take our oath, you know, in front of God Almighty, you know, make sure, you know. But some of these people think it's a joke, right? And I'm not joking. The people of Jamaica deserve better than what is happening. Okay? Go ahead, Conrad.
I agree with you, and I want to just put in perspective something I think you mentioned, Dr. Francis. You know, and by the way, Dr. Francis, you're looking quite fresh, sir. Looking quite fresh. Yes. All right. So I want to just say that the police, in the police regulation or whatever it is, each constable, as I understand it, supposed to get 5 pair of uniform for the calendar year. Yes. I spoke to the chairman recently because I want to get clarity on it. And he told me that they're supposed to get 5 pair of uniforms. They're not getting one. They're not getting none. I was at the garage about 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, after I did this interview with the Federation chairman that went viral, the one that he said that the Minister of Finance dubbed the police as dunce. And they said that they have the resources. It's not a lack of resources to pay the police, but they don't believe that he doesn't believe that the police is deserving of it. That was what reported on my program by the Federation, and it's not being contested anywhere since it come out, and that interview went viral. Yes. So it is on all platforms. Yep. And I don't hear the minister come out and say, no, the Federation chairman is lying or he misrepresented the facts. But at that material time when I saw the young man, he was playing something. So I said, wait, that sounds like my voice. So I went up now and I said to him that he is the first he's seen me. So when I started talking to him, he recognized me immediately. So he said, my God, I really wanted to see you, to congratulate you on this interview and so on, that you were able to pull this out from the chairman. And so on. I said, thank you. And he said to me, since the beginning of this year, he already purchased 2 uniforms out of his pocket. Some police officer, officer, when you look at them, you see the pants where it's worn till it's a shame, because some of them decide, say, listen, me not $10 out of where me get and buy no uniform. And the government forgive me. And some of them patch up the crutches. Let me play something phone that is going around now. There is fire growing in the Police Federation this evening, as we speak, wherein they're saying that the Police Federation is holding information from the members of the police force or from the Federation itself, the rank and file of the Federation, like Corporal Ron James. And because he's not feeling well, he's not on my program. Listen to this, Conrad. Hold on. Before you play, you're saying that they are withholding information from Corporal James, or Corporal James withholding.
They're saying that Corporal James is withholding information from the members of the Federation.
Oh, really? That doesn't sound like the Corporal Ron James that I know.
So no, man, is a person, is a policewoman who is who work at Jamaica House, Jeffrey behave herself tonight, who decide to speak to a well-known media house that is run by a certain political party in this country. But let me behave myself tonight. Listen to this.
Well, I take that information with a grain of salt.
Anyway, no matter, let's hear it.
Are you hearing it?
No.
Hold on.
So Mr. Tavares is bringing up a tape now to share. something that a member of Jamaica.
Being accused of withholding information about the compensation review system with the government.
It is not the government who is the problem at this time, but our federation who have failed to give us information since the 23rd of November. And now it's December. And members have been asking in this group for information that will help them. We are hearing, hey, we are going to lose money. We are hearing members are asking us for information that none of us can give to them.
The members say the executives have been making decisions without consulting them for a consensus.
No, me for one is going to take a stand, and my stand, I am ready to be arrested. Because if Paul Bogle, Nani and those people never did fight for freedom, would I still in a slavery? Our federation has currently have the entire membership under slavery with the lack of information, with the lack of everything.
Listen to me.
With me, we are a dictatorship of one people, the young people, and the suppress them, information.
The executives of the JPF have been in negotiations with the government for improved salaries and benefits. In August this year, the JPF and other police representative groups described the government's proposal as a woeful deception. The groups rejected the offer, saying that its members would be worse off. The members say they're not optimistic about the current round of talks now underway.
And listen, nothing is going to change the government offer. I can tell you that. So, we could have good little more, or brave little more. Let us know the implications. This coming like the compensation review. The last time when we asked for the information, I am tired.
Calls to the chairman of the Police Federation and other members of the executive for a response went unanswered. The members who've grown restless are demanding swift action from their representatives.
And if that means I am going to be alone standing downtown next week with a placard to say that the Federation should go, must go, and they cannot stay, I will be standing there alone. Because I am not going to sit back and allow these persons to not give us information that is imperative to our own benefit and welfare. Listen, if a $5 me want it, me drown in.
Why?
What is your views on that, Conrad O'Brien?
Well, I couldn't wait for the tape to conclude. Because, listen, this is, first of all, Dr. Francis, I don't know if you're aware, and you're a self-defender, I don't know if you're aware of a video or a voice clip that was doing the rounds last week. This is a continuation of that. What happened now is this now take to mainstream radio. You understand? And it is clear by the last utterance of that person who purported to be a police officer. She said that she is brave and she alone will be out there. First of all, she should declare herself to say, I am so-and-so. My number is X, Y, and Z.
No, hold on. It was an interview done on a radio station.
I am aware.
What?
I am aware.
So there's no way she could say XQI, my number is so-and-so.
She could.
Why
Hold on,
not?
what are you saying? Why not?
Why not?
In what way could she say that my number is so-and-so, call me?
No, I'm not talking about that. Her registered number. Her number that she bear as a police officer.
Oh, I thought you were talking about her phone number.
No, not at all. Right?
Okay.
And give her a name and so on, because she's bearing her chest to say that she will stand up in downtown, even by herself. So what stopped her from identifying who she was on the program? Nothing should stop her. It is indeed an embarrassment and a disgrace to know that maybe people in the political arena, is using some of these persons in order to go out there and fight their case. To date, there are many people within the civil service of Jamaica who are disgruntled with O'Neill Grant and indeed Ellen Davis White, because they said that they went to sign off an agreement for them that they were not satisfied with. When I spoke to Corporal James, when was it? Last week or the week before? I can't remember the date now. When I have him, and I had him last time on my program, he said to me that they met with the Minister of Finance, Dr. Nigel Clark. I asked him directly, is there a difference at this time than when you had the meeting with Dr. Clark and and that Dunn's argument came into it? He said that the meeting was a much more cordial meeting. It was more respectful, and they got a little more. They were probably nearer to what they were asking for. There was some movement. However, he said that they were not the word where they were trying to go in terms of achieving for his men and women. However, he said that the thing to do, they will have to deliberate on it, bring it to the executive, and then they bring it to the wider delegates of the rank and file member of the constabulary force. I gather that the chairman may not be so well at this time. Therefore, that may be stymied somewhat. However, maybe he will have to, if there is not a flow of information, maybe he would have to deputize maybe his General Secretary, Ms. McBean, or so on, probably needs to step into the breach. But as it relates to representation for the police officer, Corporal Ron James, as I dubbed him, the hard-working Federation chairman, he is putting his all in all for the membership. He is a corporal of police. So whatever he is negotiating, he is negotiating with himself in mind, because he needs as well to be remunerated properly.
Dr. Rupert Francis?
Let me say this. I'm here. Let me say this to you. You know, these people are masters of propaganda. Masters of propaganda. And they have it at their wits' end to do it. The Prime Minister himself has gone on a mission, which is absolutely unnecessary for him to go on. Okay? The Prime Minister knows exactly what to do to stop crime in Jamaica. He knows. He's not a criminologist, right? But he pretends to be that Jamaica has a crime problem. It's a public health issue. Where in God's earth is his name Cesare Beccaria, the person who started criminology? You know, where is this information? It is a biopsychosocial phenomenon, right?
Indeed.
Birth to death, right? And you claim that I don't know nothing about it, yet I studied the phenomenon. I was born around the phenomenon. I've seen the phenomenon, right? And I'm saying to you, if you really love Jamaica, do the right thing and ask everybody to do it. I am telling you, Andrew Wallace had, as it was one of the greatest opportunities to really make Jamaica the place you should live, work, and what have you. He has it in his hands. Now, hold on. Let's go back to the lady. Hold on. That woman is a paid person. And I will tell you, when it comes to corporate world, him sick in our bed now, why then wait until the man sick in our bed to run this? Eh? What are they hoping for? Well, I say to you, yes, they should let her go stand up down where
downtown.
Yeah, down. Go on, go work.
But she works on the grounds. She works on the grounds of Jamaica House. Why should not have with a placard?
Let me tell you something. With what is happening in Jamaica, it is quite possible them send her down there and start shoot the woman and say, it's Corporal James, do it.
My God.
God forbid.
No. I just, you know, listen to me. This, let me tell you something, brother. Power corruption, absolutely. And people don't understand it. I'm not knocking nobody. I am simply saying we need to have Jamaica to look after Jamaica and make sure Jamaica can work for all of us, not just some of us. Okay? And so therefore, I'm saying to you, let's stop the foolishness. Let's stop the name calling, right? Let us see if we can really manage the country in such a way that we can really, really come out ahead and not allow foreigners to take over our beautiful country.
Let me say something before I get Conrad to come on. Dr. Rupert Francis, you're the oldest person on this platform here. Not because I have gray in my head. It could be my father. You were born before Andrew Holness and myself, and even Conrad.
Yeah.
Jamaica, from 1935 until this blessed moment. And in 1962 until this blessed moment, we've been swapping black dog for monkey in this country. All right? When you look on the level of corruption in our country, the level of mismanagement of poor people money could pay off Jamaica's national debt, build another KPH for this country. Now tell me something now. You have a GG who go around, all him do is go around and yam. And all they talk about is 2030 vision. You, Dr. Rupert Francis, I want you to tell me this evening, not drifting from the point that we have, or the topic that we have. Do you see Jamaica in 2030 for 2030 vision? Dr. Francis?
I beg your pardon?
Do you see this country going towards 2030, the 2030 vision that they have?
I don't think that Jamaica, I would like to see Jamaica achieve its objectives, but I don't see it happening. Because the problem with Jamaica is we are not willing to listen to each other. We are not willing to follow the principles of modern development, right? And that is the main issue. We're not willing to do it. Some people think that they have a monopoly on common sense. Some people think that they have a right to where they are, and they're not servants of the people. Okay? But I do believe that they have the ability to move this country if they so wish. But right now, it is not happening. As Conrad O'Brien said, you have said, it is not happening. So we have to ask ourselves why. Are the people, some of them are afraid, okay? Some of them are afraid. Some have been, what shall I say, compromised in such a way that you're not going to get anything from them, really. So what we really need for people who love Jamaica, really do, to come out and support a movement to get the country on the right track. And some people are going to say, boy, it is, what shall I say, we are expecting too much. But why would we be expecting? Our children deserve that. Their children deserve that. Okay? And let's stop the fooling around. Going to America to ask Americans, the FBI and what have you, to help. They should have been doing this a long time ago. Okay?
But if you have Dr. Francis and Conrad O'Brien, let us talk about that. If you have a young man of the soil from Waterhouse who offer him service to his country for free, and the two political parties, the two dictatorship in our country, refuse to take up this man in his offer, and yet they're going to Washington to beg for what? They shouldn't give him nothing up there.
Well, all right. May I come in?
Go ahead, sir.
I want to, okay, we have to put things in perspective, and we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And, you know, we don't have to fair play and good commentary doesn't mean that you have to lambaste two political parties or everybody in the political arena in order to make the point. That is the mistake that we made, where we said the two of them are the same and all of them are the same.
Conrad.
Hold on, allow me, please. Allow me. Take, for example, when you look at the 2030 vision, where was the 2030 vision in terms of achievement when this administration came to power? Where was it? When did the 2030 vision started? And we saw where the 2030 vision has moved nowhere basically since this administration came into office. The last time I checked, we were 17% on the 2030 vision, and we are a mere 7 years from the conclusion of 2030. We also must look at some factors. And I'm not going to say that both political party has not gone down the garden path. We saw in between 2012 to 2016, where the then government draw a line in the sand. Remember when they came into office, the economy has slipped by about 5% under Bruce Golding and Andrew Holness administration. We could not get an agreement. We have to talk, put the thing in perspective, as I said, because it don't make sense we just talk. When they came to office, as I said, the economy shrunk by 5%. We could not get an IMF deal because the IMF deal was basically handled so badly by then Minister of Finance, Audley Shaw. So poorly that he had actually stopped taking the test. The IMF basically said, let Jamaica fail. Portia Simpson Miller, the girl from Woodall, that a lot of them underrate, a lot of the PhDs and the this and that underrate. She left her husband on her Christmas dinner and went to USA, meet with the Black Caucus people like Maxine Walters and so on and all of them, and they begged for Jamaica.
I'm trying.
You're hearing me, Dr. Francis?
Go ahead, man. I think you need his mic.
Yes. So they eked out an IMF deal. They come up with a body that called EPAC. And they start the debt reduction and all sorts of things and so. That is what the government of the day is basically living off that base that was set. So we had that. And to the credit, it was a two-party basically signed off. And in truth and in fact, the present administration continue on that trajectory in terms of maintaining some amount of fiscal discipline, right? So those are some of the corporations. So we're talking about the whole business of crime now. But what we're seeing with Mr. Holness, Mr. Holness play a lip service. He is not interested in no cooperation. If you don't agree with him, you support criminals and so on. And that drives me now to the question to ask Dr. Francis. Dr. Francis, you're a man who participates heavily in the security aspect of things. You chair the Security Council for the diaspora, I think.
Yes.
I had an interview with you some time ago, and I know you guys felt slighted because of how you were handled by Dr. Chang and the government as a whole. Is the relationship any better at this time?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have reached out privately and publicly, and no response at all. They know what they're doing, but they are trying to find another way. That's why I told them this evening, it's a total red herring. What they're doing is a total red herring. They are, in other words, a red herring. If you look in military parlance, it is saying the thing that to throw us off the track. Okay, the Prime Minister going, there is a reason behind it. Okay, there's a reason behind it, and so he's going and he's hoping that he can convince them that what he says is true, and it is absolutely not true. It cannot be true. Okay, because the main part of crime is being driven from Jamaica. Did the Dons come down there 2 days ago and kill that tourist got Jamaican American tourist down in St. Anne? No, right? Did they come down there and did they murder other people while the SOEs? No, right? Did the Dons order it? I don't think so. Why would they? What have they gotten to get to order that? Yes, the guns armed, but the fact of the matter is that what they have not done is done internal investigations to see the real culprits. Okay, and that is the issue. Nobody wants to call it, but I'm calling it. I'm telling you. Okay, so people there who you may think are innocent are not. There's no way so many guns can come into the island unless people are culpable and people are working it. Okay, there's no way. This thing is you can't catch. You can catch a taxi man, a man who go and abuse a taxi. People are driving with a taxi in 20, 30 minutes, and you cannot catch up somebody's killing people, right? So who knows where they know? Okay, people know where they are, and maybe people in high places. So I answered it in a roundabout fashion. But to be quite honest with you, I have studied the phenomenon, and I think I'm a reasonable person. Nobody can say I hate the PNP or I hate the GLP or what have you, or whatever. No, I have reached out to everybody. I'm not afraid to say it publicly. I said, look, we need to do something. The latest thing is the children. When I see how the children are behaving, they are aping what is going on in the country. I mean, it's throwing stones in classrooms, beating up teachers, and what you have a parent in St. Anne going to fight something deputy head of a school. Just it's happening
Vice
on
principal.
a day. So I'm just saying to you, and that's in my hometown, Ocho. So I'm saying to you, listen to me. We need to call a halt. We need to let people come and say the people of Jamaica have to understand. Okay, let me ask you a question. Why are they say it's 400 teachers or how many nurses left Jamaica? Why are they leaving? Are they leaving just because they want to earn? They're afraid. Many of them are afraid.
It's a multiplicity of things.
Yes, of course it is a multifaceted thing. Okay, so so they're making an excuse for everything. And when you speak like I'm speaking now, they will say that we're unpatriotic. No,
let me put this to you, Dr. Francis, because we have to look at things. If after Mr. Holness got a bite of the cherry for a very short time because of the whole Dudu scenario and so on, and for whatever reason, Mr. Golden had to step aside and he became prime minister, became leader of the party and prime minister.
Right.
Didn't stay there for too long. However, he did his work. He went out and campaigned. He made a lot of promises. You could sleep with your windows and doors open and all sorts of things that he would do. And the Jamaican people gave him a narrow victory in 2016, where he won, I think, by 1 seat.
Yes.
In 2020, they gave him an overwhelming majority in the House, although it's the lowest ever turnout we have had in Jamaica.
Well, absolutely.
Just a mere 37% or so of the eligible voter turnout. So he's at the wicket now for basically 7 years. And if you look all told, the Jamaica Labour Party is now in office for 11 out of the last 15 years. Therefore, Mr. Holness and the Labour Party can't say they don't get a run. And we have not seen any improvement. As a matter of fact, we have seen a worsening in the security apparatus. We have also seen where although it's said that unemployment is at the lowest, we're seeing much less people in the workforce. That's another phenomenon. To borrow the word that your word that you have been using, that's another phenomenon that we're seeing. Therefore, it means that a lot of our able-bodied people, our young men, working age people, opted out of the workforce. The question must be asked, why? And we know the answer for that. We know the answer for that. I just want to finish the chain, the thought quickly. And so therefore, by virtue of what we saw there, somebody asked a question again, I think they asked it on a program today, that what did Mr. Holness do before he got into politics? I think he worked in Mr. Siaga's office, whatever he did there. I'm not aware. But that said, he could make good contribution, but we're not seeing the dividend being paid. On the other hand, we have a Mark Golding on the PNP. Mark Golding, who is showed success as a corporate lawyer and an investment banker. He has not been given a chance at the wicket. Do you believe that at this time, we need to see, even within the Jamaica Labour Party, because they are in office now, an election not called, but do you believe that we need to see a fresh pair of hands, for example, at the security ministry and at the police force? We need fresh mind and fresh hands. These guys have just outlived their usefulness, and as them say, a country them buck.
Yeah. Well, let me answer you from the perspective, which I agree with you that we need fresh pair of hands, fresh pair of, leaders. And unfortunately, the PNP has gone really off the rails, as the JLP had gone off the rails in the, with the Gang of Five and all. It was just a total mess, as you and I know. Unfortunately, I don't know why the PNP are in this situation that they're in right now, because they were used to be very organized, a capable opposition, and so on and so forth. I think poor Mark has been given a basket to carry water, really and truly, because the party, for whatever reason, is just not together from any level, whether lower, middle, or strong. That's right, how I see it. And I know all the actors in both on all three tiers, so to speak. I think a lot of people don't want to wait their turn. I think that they think they should be leaders. I think that the party is being broken by personalities and so on. And as long as they are in that position, as long as they're not seen as a viable, Mark Will is a good guy. He's a good guy, yes. But unfortunately, Jamaicans, if you remember how they look at Siaga, for example. Some people may say he wasn't good, but Siaga was a man who, he knew what he wanted and so on and so forth. But the people didn't love Siaga. And I don't know. The feedback I'm getting, I'm not telling you this is my opinion. The feedback I'm getting.
I'll respond when you finish it. I'm allowing you.
The feedback I'm getting is that this is the situation. But I tell you this, we need a strong opposition. And yes, we do need. But the people of Jamaica, those people who voted for the Labour Party are strong. Maybe they're being, I don't know, but they're really very buoyant and they're vociferous and they'll attack you anywhere you go, anyhow. And they are fiercely loyal. And the question is why? Because the country, as you quite rightly say, is in a quagmire. And they can't see it because, as I told the lady tonight, I said, listen, the last person to smell the farm is the farmer. Okay? And so I think they're being hoodwinked. And I think that, and they could do it. I really do believe that Mr. Holness had the opportunity when I saw it with that mandate, whether there's a smaller, to have grown his mandate. And right now they're more popular. When you look at the polls, they're more popular than the opposition. There is just last week, I think one MP said he was going to cross from the PNP to the JLP, and one PNP councillor did that already. Now, brother, I am telling you the truth. I just don't understand what is causing the people of Jamaica not to see what is going on. And I really hope that they do see it, because I would like to see a stable Jamaica, and where we are one of the oldest democracies, as you know, in the world. Okay, a real true democracy. But unfortunately, This is the feedback I'm getting, by the way, from numerous persons. And I like Mark Golding. I'll tell you the truth. His father saved my mother's life. I think I've told you that before. You know, because she was at the Mona rehab for a few years, and I thought she would never leave there, and yet she did. I can't comment on it apart from that. I do believe,
but let me ask, because what happened while I was doing, I want to talk about what you said as it relates to opposition for a moment. However, as it relates to the government of the day, because there's not an election now, but I'm talking about the present scenario as it relates to the head of the Ministry of National Security and the police commissioner. Do you believe that time we're at a point where we need to see just a fresh brain, fresh pair of hands and so on in that regard?
Listen to me, you don't even have to ask me that question. I think they know it too. And worst of all, I think that the whole office of the police commissioner has been politicized. Okay, whether I like to hear it or not, it has been politicized. Because the other day when he came out and said that when the SOEs, the crime has gone up, him knows that is not true. You know, when you think about the football playing and you think about whether, you know, the football games going on, and nobody not going to kill nobody until after the football done. So, you know, I mean.
Where is the defender? Where is the defender?
No, I'm listening to you all keenly, and I have a question to ask both you and Dr. Francis.
Before you ask the question, I want to just respond to share some information here. And it is information I'm sharing because I think that I am somewhat on the ground, on the air, and, you know, in the loop somewhat. The People's National Party for the last few years had issues. There's no secret, that's no secret. They started, well, there were little cracks, but certainly those cracks opened wide when Dr. Phillips was challenged by Peter Bunting. And we know what happened. They performed poorly in the last election for whatever reason. A lot of their voters did not turn out. For example, in central Manchester, where Mr. Bunting ran, off the hill of Belfield, they normally come off with about 3,000 plus votes. I gather the last election, they came off with just about 12 votes, and the JLP won that seat by about 900 votes. So you recognize, as a matter of fact, the lowest ever amount of vote that the JLP polled in central Manchester, that's what gave them the seat. And that's why, and Ms. Crawford is a person there now. There was a wide divide when Mark Golding took over, because there was a person who was still favoring the Peter Bunting versus the Peter Phillips. A number of those persons now are back in the fold. Some of them are being given portfolio responsibility, etc., etc. I don't think the PNP is at its zenith in terms of unity. But what you saw Mark Golding, who is growing into the job. Remember that Mark Golding come to the table as the less experienced leader of the two major political parties, because he wasn't out there in representational politics in the tough and so on. So they are making some strides there. Also, what is favored, one of the things that the PNP have going for them now is that there's a lot of disgruntlement on the ground, and they could pick up a number of seats by virtue of the fall. Not so much that they have gone out there and light up the field, but by default they could pick up. However, I believe that there's also an opening for the PNP if they should get, for example, their candidates in place and basically start to come together and cement and get back to even 75, say 80% or 85% of what they are accustomed to. We could see a difference there. That's information I'm offering there. Mhm.
Okay. The question I have for you and Dr. Francis now is this. If the Labour Party government should stretch across the aisle or the other side of the parliament and said that we're going to give Peter Bunting the Minister of National Security, do you think the crime rate in our country will go down?
You want me to go first or you want to
Yes,
get
I'll
Dr.
have you to go
Francis
first. Yes.
All right. First of all, there's no magic wand that you can wave. Anybody can wave and the crime rate go down. However, what we can speak on as it relates to Peter Bunting versus Dr. Chang. Peter Bunting had 20% of the budget that Dr. Horace Chang has. And he was able to achieve the lowest numbers over a period of time. At one point, he got the number under 100, under 1,000. Therefore, it shows that he had a handle on crime and it was trending in the right direction. It was trending in the right direction. And he did that without breaching the people's human rights by way of any state of emergency, any ZOZO, and I don't think they even have raids or certain curfews. They put social intervention in place and a number of other things, and it was trending in the right direction. For me to give you an answer to say that he would be able to get it down with 6 months or whatever, but you have to mark somebody on their record. And by way of record, Peter Bunting record is much higher, is much better than Horace Chang. For example, and I close with this, the highest number of murder that was committed under Bunting's stewardship, the highest number is lower than the lowest number under the Jamaica Labour Party and Horace Chang over the last 6 years.
You know, if I knew I was going to ask you that question, I would have get the numbers and give you. But
You
anyway,
can.
Dr. Francis,
I have it.
Hold on a minute, Dr. Francis, the same question for you, sir. The question is this, Dr. Francis.
I know the question.
Okay, go ahead.
In a world, we should really try to give the best person the opportunity that can do the job to get the job done, regardless of party affiliation. In a perfect world, you can shake your head all you want. I'm saying in a perfect world, but this is not a perfect world. Look at what happened in Britain with the British prime ministers and what have you and so forth. Then, turmoil over it. Politics, power corrupts, absolute. But here's the situation. I have to agree with Conrad in the sense of production. And we have to look at people's production, okay? I am not going to say one is better than the other necessarily, but one produced better than the other, okay? There are many things that why Peter Bunting lost his seat and so on. And he's suffering from almost like a Siaga thing. Let's call it that, because, that's what I hear. That's what I'm being told, okay? And I've met him. And, that sort of thing. And he's a nice guy, and so on and so forth. But other people get a different. But the point is this, though, Conrad's point is very, very well known. And, one of the things that people must understand, if you listen to a commentary like mine, you would say to yourself, okay, this guy being real, is he telling the truth? Is he speaking in the best interest of Jamaica? And when I talk about the best interest of Jamaica, a statement like what Conrad made, you have to say to yourself, you should really look at it. Eh? You should really, I know the reason why you asked the question. And my view is this, that we want Jamaica to thrive, and it cannot thrive. You see, let me tell you something. We could be the world's best, this guy's doing a phenomenal job, our tourism minister. And we could have the whole...
Hold on, Dr. Francis. Dr. Francis, don't switch to the tourism minister.
No, the reason...
I asked a specific question. Is either that Bunting can be a good minister, can't be a good minister.
But
You're dancing around the question I'm asking you.
no, but
No. I think it's unfair to say that we're dancing on the question. First thing, we're not in our witness box that you answer with a yes or no.
A simple answer a question is a talk show host and a talk show host.
Yes, and I'm simply saying to you, my friend, the defender, that what happened, you have to look everything that you do. You look at a resume, you look at a person, the productive capacity of somebody. And what we're saying, that by virtue of the production of a Bunting, when he was at the wicket, yes, he would do a better job than Dr. Chan. Let me be blunt. Yes, he would. In my humble opinion,
Francis?
based on his production.
Well, Trevor, when I did the analogy here, what I was going to say is just simply, with the state, I'm talking about the state of Jamaica. I'm saying, even you have the most tourists coming to Jamaica, and they're behind the Iron Curtain, so to speak, or what do you call them? What you call it?
All inclusive. Okay.
Doesn't help Jamaica because the real all of Jamaica is not included. So I'm saying to you, it's a false negative, it's a false positive, because so therefore, we have to have a situation where people are free to go about, people feel free to go about, and those who are investing don't have to protect them behind walls, okay? And what have you. And right now, let me make it quite clear, it is spilling inside some of them because some of the women are being raped and all that sort of thing. So what can I tell you? Okay, so yes, that's the reason why I answered in that way.
Okay.
So
Wilfred Rattigan, welcome back, Wilfred Rattigan, to the program. The question I'm asking Wilfred Rattigan. Then we can go back to the whole topic of the night, the dictatorship of this country. Do you believe that if the Prime Minister of this country should come back from Washington to Jamaica and decide to, okay, I'm gonna sack Dr. Harris Chan, and I'm gonna call Peter Bunting from the People's National Party to become Minister of National Security? Do you believe that Peter Bunting could do a better job than Dr. Harris Chan?
One second before the rebel.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason I asked the question, because somebody asked me this question to ask you, especially.
Me. Good.
No, Rattigan.
And I respond. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Ratty. Answer the question for me.
All right. Happy to be back with my family. You know, you guys are not just panelists. You know, I had to burn some fire 2 places a while ago, but all is well. Regarding whether or not Peter Bunting would be a better crime fighter or minister than Chang, first of all, you know, I don't think the Prime Minister would. I don't think he would cross party lines and bring Bunting.
Yeah.
But let's say that if he had to put Peter Bunting in there, let's just say that it's possible, like what they would do in America, and he can cross party lines and bring him in.
Mm-hmm.
I think Peter Bunting would be a much better minister than Chang, and he's demonstrated that. I mean, if you look at the stats, and then you look at his temperament, and you look at his demeanor, and you look at his outreach, you see that this is a man, and believe me, he had faults too. I mean, I can point them out to you. But in general, overall, this man is light years. He's light years ahead of Dr. Chang when it comes to crime fighting. Maybe if it comes to medical practice, it can't hold a candle to Dr. Chang. But I know when it comes to being the Minister of National Security, I think that it's a no-brainer. Definitely.
Okay, listen to me.
And one more question.
Mr.
One more question. I'm going to let you speak, Dr. Francis. Remember what I'm going to say. I'm going to let you speak.
You have the question written. Dr. Francis don't have where my say right.
I don't have nothing written in my head. I have nothing written. I don't have nothing written down.
Okay.
Do you, Wilfred Rattigan?
Yes, sir.
Do you know the reason why you have a Minister of National Security? Cybersecurity falling in his ministry. All right?
Yes.
You never hear that the Minister of National Security leave the country to go meet his counterparts, neither in the Caribbean, nor nor in America. Darrell Vaz went to Israel to meet with the Israeli counterpart, the Minister of National Security for Cybercrime. The Prime Minister of Jamaica is in Washington meeting with the State
Security.
Department and FBI agency. Why is it that the Minister of National Security is the Deputy Prime Minister, who is also the Deputy Minister of Defense? How is it that he doesn't travel overseas, Wilfred Rattigan?
All right. Well, for this particular trip, it may be one of those things where you don't want your prime minister and your deputy prime minister traveling at the same time to the same place. For, you could have a catastrophic event and then your leadership is wiped out. I understand that.
What happened?
No. I understand that for this trip.
I'm not kidding. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. I understand that. But you raise a good point. How is it that we've never seen him travel, particularly to the United States, to conduct engagements with his counterparts in any of the agencies, any of the USG agencies? Now, let me give you a little bit of background, and maybe this will help to kind of like address the issue. Now, this is a fact. This is not my impression. This is a fact. WikiLeaks, the cables that came out of Kingston several years ago, and I've seen them. I've seen them recently, because when I was with the FBI, they forbade us. They said, no, you can't look at these cables. And so we couldn't look at them. But this year, I was able to get a glimpse at some of them. And they were very revealing, because it shows that the USG is collecting, and I mean, we all know this, they're collecting intel on certain people in certain countries. And they collected a lot on several people who are still in government today. One of them being Dr. Chang. The cable came out saying, trying to link him to gangs in St. James, right? And again, this is a fact. I'm not making this up. This is not my opinion. I mean,
hold on. Let me just buttress this. Wilfred Rattigan is an attorney at law, former FBI supervisor, and you're saying that you are privy, since you have delisted from the FBI, to look at some of these WikiLeaks find, and what have you seen there?
I've seen cables coming from the US Embassy in Kingston, detailing the activities, illegal and otherwise, of past and present members of the parliament, the Jamaican parliament. And in one of those cables, they indicated that there's a relationship between the current Minister of National Security, Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Horace Chang, and gangs in St. James. Now, I'm sure he's aware of that. I am sure. But what's interesting is that right after that, the Prime Minister put him in charge of national security. So the question then is, if there is a matter to be investigated regarding Dr. Chang, who's going to do it? Because he sits at the top of the totem pole, right? That's number one. Number two is, if Dr. Chang is thinking that, look, I know what I did, and if the reports are true, if I were in his position, again, let me just say, if I were in his position, looking at those cables and knowing that, knowing what I did, I would be very reluctant to travel, because the US government has a habit of not sending extradition papers for politicians. They'll send it for criminals, but not for politicians. What they'll do with politicians, they'll let you travel. And then when you travel,
akin to what we saw with the Turks and Caicos gentleman there recently.
Yeah, the BVI guy.
BVI.
Right. They're not sending out an extradition order for him, because it's gonna take forever and it's gonna be very political. You let him travel. And then when he travels, you give him a piece of jewelry, and then you have him as a guest. So I'm thinking, if I'm in his position, I'm not traveling. I'm not traveling, because if you think about it, he should travel. Jamaica has such a high murder rate that you think that he would be traveling all over the globe, trying to get assistance, trying to do study tours, trying to get resources, trying to do everything. I mean, that's what he's supposed to be doing, but he's not doing it. And so the question is why? And the only thing I can figure out is that he's probably fearful that he's going to be arrested because the Americans have the goods on him.
Former FBI supervisor, Wilfred Rattigan, attorney at law, you have gone into deep waters right here. And make we talk.
I can go even deeper.
You're deep. I can go even. Before you go deeper, because I think what our esteemed host, the defender, wanted to get from you in a nutshell is this particular trip. Should we see the minister going rather than the prime minister, because this is something that could be handled by your minister of national
and the
security.
deputy prime minister?
Yes, because, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this trip would make sense for Dr. Chang, Minister Dr. Chang, to take. First of all the people that they're going to meet, they have representatives in Kingston at the embassy. They're all there. FBI has a presence there, DEA, ATF, Homeland Security, Customs, State Department. Everybody's there, right? So if they really wanted to have talks, they could have had talks in Jamaica. It didn't need to travel here.
So this is another waste of money when poor people can buy a tin of dirty girl and a couple pound of chicken back for this trip by the Prime Minister, while we could have it here. And remember that he had basically advised the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Portia Lucretia Simpson Miller, the most honorable, that she should have Zoom or Skype meeting.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's a waste of money, because you didn't have to travel you don't have to come here for that, because, and I've sat at the table. I know how these things work. He could have simply just called the ambassador and said, listen, what I'd like to do is I'd like to meet with your country team. We have some issues regarding all of this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Then the guy would get all of the heads of agencies and get them in his conference room. And then the Prime Minister would come in and then he would make his pitch. And then that pitch would be dispatched to Washington. And then the results would follow therefrom. But for him to come here and say, well, he's coming to talk about crime and this and that, and it's nonsense. And he did not, and if somebody had to come, it should have been Chang. It should have been Dr. Chang who should have come, because it's his portfolio and he's the one who's responsible. But also keep in mind, he's the one who said that we don't need any help from the diaspora because we have world-class investigators down here. All we need is for you to keep sending the money and you can come and give a one speech.
As a matter of fact, he embarrassed one of our esteemed panelists. And I'm talking about no less a person than Dr. Rupert Francis. Am I correct, Dr. Francis, that you were embarrassed by the government of Jamaica? Not hearing our good friend. What happened?
Dr. Francis, are you there, sir? Unmute your mic if you're there, sir, because we're asking a very important question. Go ahead,
I'm trying to listen. I'm not hiding from the question because you already know the answer.
We don't know the answer. Listeners, the listeners on Jam Vibes Radio, internet radio, and also the viewers and Make We Talk, Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitter do not know the answer. Dr. Rupert Francis, a Jamaican, the chairman for the crime prevention unit. Is it unit or task force?
Task force, my friend.
Task force for the diaspora. Were you embarrassed by the Minister of National Security and Justice and the Deputy Prime Minister of this country?
Not injustice. He is separate, just Minister of National Security.
Injustice, yes, go ahead.
Oh, injustice.
Turn it to respond, Mr. Will Rattigan.
No. We're asking you to respond. We're asking our turn to respond. We're asking you to respond.
listen to me. Let me make it quite clear. The tape is there. We have a copy of it. What was said and how it was said, and yes, it was a very embarrassing moment, and I forgive him for making that very odd statement. But at the same time, it's out there, and it caused a firestorm. And if there were TikTok days, it would have gone viral, because and they tried to walk away from it. But what is interesting is, and the Prime Minister said absolutely nothing.
Dr. Francis, I want to jump in here because I go to the heart of the matter, and sorry to seem as if I'm coming in, but I have to take an opportunity when I see it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it safe to say, and Mr. Rattigan, you can weigh in on this as well, is it safe to say that the diaspora is not very happy with the present leadership or the present government, not happy with Jamaica House at this moment? Is it fair for us to conclude that there is not the most healthy of relationship with the diaspora and the government of Jamaica at this time?
Absolutely fair assessment. Absolutely fair, because recent events will show that this has come to, and I think that the Prime Minister would not be advised at this time to do a town hall meeting anywhere, because
my God,
that's what
they
I
will boo him. Is it that they will boo him like they boo the first lady of this country?
I'm being told that he's planning some maybe a limited form of a town hall meeting. I think it's tomorrow or Friday. I just heard that he's planning.
The ambassador of Washington is planning it for him.
Yes, he's gonna have it in Washington.
I'll get that live feed.
Well, there aren't
answer the question, Dr. Francis. Is it that he will get a boo like his wife got a boo?
Just a minute. I'm trying to answer the question. The mere fact that he has chosen to have it in Washington, D.C., I don't know if you'll get any boos there, because they're Jamaicans who, they're not as proactive as the other areas. But
in other words, they're labor rights there. Go ahead.
No, I wouldn't say that they're labor rights.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Just simply saying that the crowd that would come from is not going to be there because they're more orderly, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it. But I think that any politician who goes into certain areas now from the Jamaica Labour Party are at risk of being booed. Yes, and I'm not saying that I'm endorsing any booing or anything. I'm just simply saying that is the climate that I understand that exists today.
And it's...
Go ahead, Tavares.
You're saying something, Conrad?
No, defender. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. I'll come in.
Yes.
We're going back to security.
Mm-hmm.
You recent, long time incident happened in this country.
Yeah.
You have the many judicial killing in this country by the state. Extrajudicial killing, yes. Extrajudicial killing by the state. Pardon me?
Which state are we talking about? States?
The land of wood and no water.
Okay, good. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Where the state kill a lot of citizens and you hear nothing about it.
Oh, yeah.
You're older than me. I heard Wilmot Perkins at one point speaking about the Green Bay massacre. The question for you, Dr. Francis, do you believe that a Green Bay massacre and also a Tivoli Garden massacre is the same?
That's a very difficult question. Because why is it difficult? Because I was there during the Green Bay, not there at the scene. I was around in the military at the time. The Tivoli Gardens situation, incursion, as they call it, took place at a different time. But the principle is the same.
The principle, in my opinion, was to get rid of the opposition or some form of opposition, and so that's my answer to that in terms of what. So but it is something that we have to be very, very careful of, because when you go down that path, it's a slippery slope. You know what I mean? Because there's no turning back, and that's why Tivoli agreement has not been really repeated, and hopefully it will never be repeated. But I don't know. Honestly, I'm saying to you, it would take a person who is totally out of their head to do something like that at this point in time. But what is happening, though, is systematical. Though, in my opinion, although there is a massacre of that type, it is happening anyway. Okay, it is happening anyway, and this is there every day for people to see that this type of thing is happening. And because maybe it isn't it's not isolated either, but if you put all of them together, I mean, the Green Bay was a baby to what's happening today, like a little child,
May I jump in here?
Go ahead.
I'm not going to respond to the Green Bay or to Tivoli. I want to leave that alone. But not that I can't speak to it, but I think I want to put something to Dr. Francis. Dr. Francis, you served the Jamaica Defense Force in the past.
Yes.
And the Jamaica Defense Force was one of the bodies in Jamaica that reverend in more ways than one.
Yes.
You talk about the discipline and so on. You also talk about the kind of respect, which a part of that respect was even a great fear factor by the people whenever army touch road.
Right.
Now we have seen where even that not having the kind of result that one would expect, say, even within the SOEs, because the SOE have been used and watered down so much. Do you believe that the Jamaica, it's a lack of training in the Jamaica Defense Force at this time, why we're not seeing that kind of result coming from the army, or it's just fatigue and being weary and they're being used for the wrong reason? Why we are seeing where this sort of nostalgia have basically been removed from the army, so to speak?
You know, the army was not intended to be used in this particular environment for a long length of time. In fact, the army was used in aid to civil power, which is the police. Was the intention of the military and the creation of the military. So they would only come out from time to time. But when you have a complete exposure to what we call friendly force for so long, it's going to be diffused and these things are going to happen. Now, is training and education and experience different now? Of course it is. You had different types of soldiers now and out there. But when you put soldiers out there in communities for too long, you are watering them down. They become vulnerable because they're people like you and I. And so I think an error has been made to have them exposed for so long out in the field for such a long time. So the short answer to is yes, your comment is correct, but it's correct because we do not expose the military is still revered in Jamaica quite a lot. There have been incidents, of course, recently that we would rather not hear about, or not necessarily hear about, but we wish did not surface. But that's going to happen. But that's because exposure. Look at what the incidents, the video incidents are there. Too much exposure to the public. It was not, SOEs were not intended to do what they're doing right now. And that's why it's...
That said, Defender, if you may allow me to just, I want to bring in our attorney at law and former FBI top man. Yes. We're going back there, but I need to ventilate.
Hold on a minute, Conrad.
Yes.
There's an item of news that is just in. The Peru president is ousted. There's a turmoil going on in Peru right now. And they have ousted him or taken him out of power by the Congress of the Peruvian Parliament. And I was going to go to that because reasons being, there is also a video that I have that I want to speak to. I want to make it finish with Dr. Francis. We're going to go back to the whole topic of dictatorship, wherein the question was asked of the Honduran government. How are they stemming their crime situation in Honduras? And the video was circulating wherein a lot of, they have a state of emergency. A lot of their citizens has been locked up unlawfully. Same way is going on in Jamaica. So, you know, we're going to go to that. Ask Dr. Francis your question and we're going to switch to that. You don't mind, sir?
No, I don't mind at all. And I want Wilfred to jump in on this as well.
Yeah,
you know,
because he looked very far away, you know, since he talk about Dr. Chang, you know, he looked very far away.
No, man, but they're right front and center, brother.
All right. Well, based on the acumen, security acumen of these eminent gentlemen, Wilfred Rattigan and Dr. Francis, Rupert Francis. That said by Dr. Francis just now, what is the driving force behind the Prime Minister and his administration with this obsession of continuation of SOE to the point where he has gone against the grain of a number of persons, including constitutional lawyer, Dr. Lyde Barnett, to say that indeed, who said that indeed it would not be sending the right signal for the Prime Minister to have gone this way with an extension of the SOE, knowing that it was just voted down by the opposition and it does not show good governance and cooperation. As a matter of fact, indeed, no less a person than the Minister of National Security said after that SOE was voted down and the question was put to him, he said that, listen, it would not show good governance for the Prime Minister to do that. In the House of Representatives as well, in the Senate, the former Attorney General, Mr. Oh my God, I forgot his name now, but he said, Mr. Ransford, whatever his name is, sorry for that. He said that certainly it would be very, very poor governance, I'm paraphrasing now, for the government to do that. As a matter of fact, when Lambert made the point, which was tongue-in-cheek, he said that basically what Lambert was doing was really taking step, so to speak, with the government because he knows that that was bad advice.
Well, to be quite honest with you, it should not have been done, and it was advised. But as I said before, the Prime Minister is of the view that this is a public health crisis, killing of people. There's no punishment, and let me make it quite clear. Mental health in the United States or anywhere is a public health crisis in the United States. It is not so with crime in terms of killing. But I'll say something that was said earlier, that the mistake they came to Lauderhill, 3 of the gang members came and had a shootout in there. And they stopped them right away and they have the net. So when the Prime Minister says what he says, I think he's trying, the Lauderhill police and all those people, they got them and they got all their friends and they know where this is going. And they went to Panama City and they cleared up about 9 of them after that as well too. And they're on to them. Okay? So I am saying, that's why I've just said that the Prime Minister's mission is a red herring. Okay? To kind of give the impression that something is happening. He refuses to engage with the diaspora, right? And Dr. Chang for the embarrassed because they don't really want crime to, in my opinion,
they don't want crime to be reduced.
The long and short of it, and Wilfred Rattigan need to answer the question that Conrad O'Brien asked him a while ago. But the long and short of it, the Jamaican government is afraid of a man they call Wilfred Rattigan, the rebel. Because there's an old saying, once an FBI is always an FBI. Wilfred Rattigan, answer the question that Conrad O'Brien asked you. Then we're going to switch to a video out of Honduras. Go ahead.
Yeah, Conrad, that was a lot to digest. Yeah, give me the essence of it, please.
All right. What I'm saying is that in light of what Dr. Francis said, with the exposure of the security, the soldiers in particular, and of course the police who are out there, you know, for odd hour and all of that. And we are not seeing the dividend from the state of emergency. Why is it that the Prime Minister and his government continue to go this route?
Okay. It's a very simple answer. It's a very good question, but there's a very simple answer to it. And that is because Plan Secure Jamaica is a failure. That's the crime plan. That's the national security plan. He's been touting it. He made mention of it in his budget presentation to Parliament in 2016. He announced it formally in 2017. And every year since, he's been saying, yes, it's in full effect. Yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to do that. And then nothing gets done. In fact, I have it right here. He made the announcement about Plan Secure Jamaica in 2016. In 2016, there were 1,354 murders in Jamaica. In 2017, when he announced it, there were 1,647 murders. In 2018, there were 1,287 murders. 2019, 1,339 murders. 2020, 1,323. And last year, 2021, 1,463. So it's clear that
and this year we're already over 1,400.
Right. So it's clear that Plan Secure Jamaica is not working. So he has to come up with something. And then he calls these enhanced security measures. What's enhanced about stripping people of their rights? When you go and you net fish in a community, when you say, we know the 300 violence producers in the country. And then the question is, well, since you know them, why don't you go after them and leave innocent people alone? Let the community rest. Let the community do what you said you were going to do. Let them sleep with their doors and their windows open, right? And then you go after the 300 bad people. But that's not happening. So he has to do this. Then the other crime plan is blame dancehall for the crime, for the crime. Blame dancehall artists for the crime. Then blame criminals.
And cause the opposition said so they are supporting criminal and the human rights group.
Yes, and then do become the demolition man and just demolish neighborhoods because you said that they have criminals living there. That's another one. I never heard of that crime plan before, where they say, you know, we have criminals there and we're just gonna demolish them. Because then the question then is that the only and I hate to use the word squatter, but because we use the term that they've used, is that the only squatter community in Jamaica where there's an allegation of criminality existing therein? Because if the answer is no, then I'd like to know, when are you going to demolish those communities as well?
Listen, Mr. Rattigan, you're spot on, and the fact of the matter is that the what we need to do though is Jamaica needs to really sort out the so-called ghettos and all that sort of thing, and really give them good amenities and so on, and really put some funds into education for young people, especially young men and what have you.
But Dr. Francis, let me do a quick interruption. The idea of formalizing squatters and do all that stuff, the Prime Minister mentioned that about 3 years ago in his budget presentation to Parliament. And where are we with that? Just like in 2016, the Governor General said, listen, there is legislation to remove the Queen as the head of state
and also to implement a fixed date for election and a fixed time period for
term limits.
Yeah, term limits. Where is that? It's all talk. It's all talk. And then to make matters worse is this. Where is the money?
Listen to me, my friend. Let me say, they say talk is cheap, you know. But let me just say this too. My good friend, and I go back to Conrad said about the what do you call them now? Those people, those born again liberals there. Let me name again. You know the people who say
Libertarians?
Human rights people. Conrad.
Oh.
Me have a problem with human rights people, you know. I'm gonna say the truth, you know. Because every human has a right to life, you know, right? And I'm saying to you, in Jamaica right now, there's no punishment. And every mention certain things, Conrad, right? Let's just go off the top, just 1 minute. Every time we mention something that you can really stymie this thing, because if you were punishing these guys really, you can't take up a gun and kill somebody with impunity. And you don't expect nothing to happen to you. Oh, he was, you know, whatever. You kill 5 people, cut them short, and oh, he was mad. Well, listen to me now, my friend. That is why the Prime Minister can get away, but it's a public health crisis. That's the way like that. Okay? And let me say this. We have to get serious about crime. Really serious. What Mr. Rattigan has just said, my brother Rattigan has just said, is fundamental, right? We have to stop lying to ourselves. And you know, the 4 of us, let me make it quite clear. If they listen to us, they wouldn't be in the quagmire they're in today. But I tell you, the question Tavares asked, Brother Tavares asked, is where are we going? We are at the edge of the precipice. And if we don't see it, then we're blind. Okay? And that's I have to say. Because this is...
I have a video to show that is out of Honduras. It is now 13 minutes after 9 o'clock. Wherever you're watching and listening from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean, this is Make We Talk with yours truly, Jeffrey Tavares, the Defender, Wilfred Rattigan, talk show host, attorney at law, and former FBI agent, the Rebel, Conrad O'Brien. Make We Talk. Conrad O'Brien, rather, is Newstalk 93 FM, the Fireman, and of course, our good friend, Dr. Rupert Francis, the elder of all of us inside here this evening. Is Jamaica on the bridge of becoming
I'm going to
a
catch up,
dictatorship?
but I'm beating you know what, you know. Every minute about this elder man, all the girls them know let's lift me and gone to Conrad.
Hold on. He's giving you that advantage. He's giving you that advantage. The young thing them love mature man. So make him keep up, make him go on. And hear what I've got. And Doc, guess what? Guess what? You look fresh. So them girls don't worry about it.
Did I finish what I was saying?
From the man start, you know, man. From the man start, the man, you know.
You gentlemen are something else.
I'm Wilfred not even defending my brethren. I'm not defending.
No, because you know no gold chain. You need a gold chain like you know gold chain like the Fireman.
We are live on we are live on Jam Vibes Radio. Jam Vibes Internet Radio. We're live on that also. We're speaking about this. Is Jamaica on the bridge of becoming a dictatorship? And we're going to show a video what is going on in Honduras. Is Honduras gang violence, is it that state of emergency is helping? Let's look on this. Because we need to know something here. What is going on in this beloved country of ours? And the question after this is going to be, is Jamaica on the bridge of becoming a Honduras?
A state of emergency declared in Honduras. President Xiomara Castro says she wants to end an epidemic of gang-driven extortion and crime. But while civil society agrees tough action is needed, they're also wary of eroding constitutional rights. I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is Honduras. A national security emergency is now in effect in the Central American nation of Honduras. On Sunday, more than 600 military police officers were sent to man all the country's international borders. Honduras, along with El Salvador and Guatemala, form the so-called Triangle of Death, plagued by gangs who control drug trafficking and organized crime. And extortion is a preferred method of earning their illicit money. Internally, 20,000 additional police are now on the streets. New security controls are on the roads, and measures against money laundering have been put in place. President Castro, who came to power earlier this year, adopted the plan after mounting civilian complaints that extortion has worsened in recent months. In exchange for a so-called war tax, gangs offer protection to people or say that those who pay up will not be killed. Extortion generates annual profits of over $700 million for the gangs. That's nearly 3% of the country's GDP.
The national police must recover in the shortest possible time the public spaces violated and controlled by the organized crime and their gangs, to strengthen this strategy of immediate recovery of lawless territories, neighborhoods, villages, municipalities, and departments.
But these emergency measures come at a cost, meaning some constitutional rights will be suspended. Obviously, not everyone is supporting the president's decision to curb those rights. Activists say young men are frequently arrested based on their age and appearance, or whether they live in a gang-dominated area, leading to a high number of wrongful arrests. In El Salvador, where similar measures were taken, NGOs reported several thousand human rights violations and at least 80 deaths in police custody. Others, desperate for improvement, support the step. Jorge Lanza, the leader of the bus operators in Honduras, says drivers have been asking for a crackdown for years and that 50 drivers have been killed so far in 2022. Well, the Central American nation has long been plagued by poverty and gang violence linked to drug trafficking. Let's take a look at some of the stats in the country that led to these emergency measures being enacted.
It's unclear exactly how many active gang members are in Honduras, but it's estimated to be anywhere from 5,000 to 40,000. Although the country has reduced its murder rate by half since 2011, it remains one of the world's highest, with 38 homicides per 100,000 people, according to the International Rescue Committee. This violence has left nearly 250,000 people internally displaced, with 800 Hondurans leaving the country every single day. And 25 overcrowded prisons house more than 22,000 inmates, where human rights organizations have criticized conditions, citing a lack of food, unsanitary conditions, and corruption.
On Monday, President Castro confirmed that Honduras will soon complete negotiations with the United Nations. They're aiming to create an international mission to fight corruption in the country. Widespread graft is blamed for aggravating poverty, violence, and increased migration. Last year, Hondurans represented the largest nationality trying to immigrate to the United States. Now, under U.S. President Barack Obama, hundreds of millions of dollars in police and military aid was provided to Honduras. A prison reform program was established, but around 10 years ago, the United States put a halt to that program, citing Honduras' failing effort to fight corruption and commit to reform. And former President Juan Orlando Hernandez is facing trial in the U.S., accused of accepting millions of dollars in bribes over his 8 years in office in exchange for protecting drug traffickers. Today, Honduras military police, widely seen as a corrupt pet project of former President Hernandez, are now being deployed to crack down on gangs.
Hernandez abused his position as president of Honduras from 2014 through 2022 to operate the country as a narco state. Hernandez is alleged to have received millions of dollars from multiple drug trafficking organizations, including from the former leader of the Sinaloa cartel, known as El Chapo.
So can a state of emergency really help crack down on crime and corruption? Or are those enforcing the law simply the remnants of that narco state looking to profit from criminality? Joining me now to debate that and more are from Milwaukee, Maria Bosmowski. She is the Deputy Director of Programs and lead on Central American issues at the Atlantic Council. From New York, Jared Olson is an independent investigative journalist covering Honduras. And from London, Javier Farque, also a journalist and Latin America analyst. Thanks all so much for being with us. Jared, I'll start with you because you've actually been based mostly in San Pedro Sula, which is the second largest city, but it's the commercial capital of Honduras. How has it felt there? I mean, is the crime?
Yes, we do apologize. I couldn't find the feed to stop it. The question must be asked. I know Conrad going to step into this. The end of the video that I just cut, the lady said, is it that the people who want to solve crime, is it they are part of the crime apparatus? Conrad, you heard the video?
Yeah, I heard it. But what happened, and it's instructive that you mentioned this stuff, because I was having a discussion earlier, and the Prime Minister actually referenced Honduras with the state of emergency to buttress his point of a state of emergency in Jamaica. But one of the things that one have to understand, and Wilfred will be able to, the defender will be able to speak to this in a more fulsome way. The whole scenario in Honduras is different, although we are seeing the murders, they're the fourth highest murder in the world. But what is happening? Honduras situation, unlike ours, where we have this kind of anecdotal thing that we say you have a few dons overseas that send some guns, but there's a direct relationship with international criminality, with an open drug trade and all of those sort of things that are taking place in Honduras, which is a total different scenario from Jamaica. And even implicit in that, you recognize that what the people are saying is that the rights of the people are being trampled in a big way. So therefore, our situation here in Jamaica is a homegrown, and it's a much more controlled and easier scenario to deal with. The Prime Minister, if you notice, they're talking about between 5 to 40,000 persons or gangs or whatever. We are talking about a group of about 300 persons. It's not me, say so. It's not you, say so, Tavares. It's not Rattigan, say so. It's not Francis, say so. That came from the Prime Minister himself to say that we have about 300 persons. And Rattigan put it forward. Defender put it forward earlier. If we have 300, was it this evening or another evening? I don't remember. That if we have about 300 people who are creating the mayhem in Jamaica, why can't we catch them? Why can't we do the proper spearfishing and hold on to these people?
More than having a big state of emergency and putting other Jamaicans' fundamental rights, you know?
Taking it away.
They're taking it away from us, of course. And this is to show you, this video is to show you that the public state of emergency, in a sense, does not really help, you know. It more take away the rights of citizens.
Absolutely, that's what it does. So, Ratty?
We have the great grandson of Paul Bogle online with us. We're going to have Rattigan answer to this one. Mr. Rattigan, can you speak to us, sir? Are you on the way to the headquarters?
No, I'm a little bit indisposed right now, but I'm listening to the conversation. I'll join you momentarily. Okay,
thank you. We're going to go back to Dr. Rupert Francis. You watched the video, sir. Your take on it. Unmute your mic, Dr. Francis.
Yes, my take on that. First of all, when I shuddered when I saw that the video, because I watched a lot of South American developments and so on, and sadly, it is not so far removed from our own situation, except the human rights violations are maybe more pronounced in Honduras. And yes, there are human rights violations, and they should not occur. But what I found that was interesting, did you see the uniforms those guys had on? The police? Yes. They're almost the very same thing that Jamaicans have taken on since this new government. I wonder why. The point I'm serious. No, look at it. It's the same color, The same things that are
I think it's an international thing, Dr. Francis, is going on.
But listen, I'm just making an observation, sir, and it's my observation, not yours. So me just hold on from my corner. So you want to just saying. All I'm saying, look, what I'm also saying is this, right? That you have, I don't know if the Prime Minister is correct in saying there's only 300, because I don't know where he got his facts from. But I do know where the, what you'd call them now, the epicenter is of these the gangs and so on and so forth, the scammers and what you. Are there areas that people are not even allowed to walk in or go in the bush? I happen to know that. So let me say this to you, right? Can we become a Honduras? I doubt it, because Jamaica is, if that were to happen, then most Jamaicans would flee already and gone somewhere else. They are that flexible. Jamaicans are that flexible. And I think that it is because Jamaicans are that flexible that, you know, that's why we have not gotten very, very far in relation, because they're not holding people accountable. And they're saying, you know, some people would not do that. But let me make it quite clear. There must be people who you think that would not do that in Jamaica that are doing that. Okay? You know, contract killings is one of the, you know, we have one of the largest amount of contract killings in the world, you know, right now, and people don't understand. People are disappearing, right? And they're not necessarily going to America and what have you. They're disappearing, okay? They've seen Dons try to come in on the West Palm Beach coast just up to last year or early this year. So let me say this to you. It is quite obvious that somebody is fooling somebody, right? And I say, for the benefit of Jamaica, please stop doing that, because it's not helping anybody. Okay? It's like sweeping the dust under the carpet. It doesn't make sense. It's going to come, you're going to have something badly happen after a while. So just to say that, it is sad what is happening in this country, but many South American countries, El Salvador, and what have been through that, I mean, they have some of the worst gangs that you can think of in El Salvador. And we can solve our problems. We know, and I think the politicians and many other prominent people know who they are, and it would be good right now to try to see if they can sever connections before it's too late. That's my view. Yes.
The great grandson of Paul Bogle is on with us. But before he comes on, I see Conrad O'Brien want to weigh in. Go ahead, Conrad.
Yeah, I want to just put this out there. I'm sorry, Wilfred is in this spot, but he's listening, so he can weigh in when he comes on. But to Dr. Francis, and of course, welcome my good friend, our good friend, Mr. Clark, the great-great-grandson of the icon himself, the great man, Paul Bogle. What you make, Dr. Francis, of recent pronouncement from no less a person than the chairman, we spoke about him earlier, the chairman of the Police Federation, who very outspoken, but he said at a funeral procession last week, Sunday, or a week before, that we don't need a state of emergency. I had him on air, he doubled down on that, and he said what we need is proximity policing. I think he also said in your program and right here and Neck We Talk, right? What we need is proximity policing. And we here, we understand what proximity policing is. However, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, let I just try and say something about it in a nutshell. Proximity policing means similar to what you would call community policing. So you will be there in the communities and you will be interfacing, you will be in, as the word suggests, close to the people. And also where there is a saturation of police needed, you'll be able to provide that saturation there without having a state of emergency. Because the only thing, what you're seeing in some cases in the state of emergency is really police and our security personnel saturate the ground. But what happened under the state of emergency, they're able to take away your liberty. They can just come in and kick your door down, do whatever they can. But when you have normal policing with proximity police, you have to do it the right way. So if you're going into a person's property and so on, you need to have a search warrant, etc., etc., etc. So what you make of that, of he speaking so boldly, and he did that in front of the Commissioner of Police and indeed the Minister of National Security at that funeral procession or funeral service.
Yeah, let me say this to you, Conrad. I have to say that I admire Rohan James. Out of all the heads of the police federation, him, because he's not afraid to, and he speaks from a biblical perspective. He also speaks from a more ethical perspective and a moral perspective.
Truth to power.
Truth to power. That's correct. And sometimes you don't want to hear the truth, because the truth is an offense, but it's not a sin. And I wish they would listen. Listen, let me tell you something. When we decided to go to Jamaica in 2015, when the call was made by Mr. Montague, so whatever anybody wants to say about Montague, he also did very well as a Minister of National Security.
And they get rid of him because he look like me and you.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna go. Yeah, I understand, but we're not gonna go there right now with that. Conrad, you're a bad man, but anyway, in a good way, bad man in a good way. But the point I'm trying to make is this, though, that he started even the 5 principles that they had adopted, they came from us. I mean, the conversations that we had. That's another trick in Jamaica. When you talk to them, they take what you have to say, but they don't give you any credit for it. But the point I mean, that didn't matter to me very, very much, or the people, because we were dedicated and we just wanted, and we started out very well, and we were going to deal with gangs, and the money was allocated by the USAID, and somebody what do you call it, tore it down and what have you, and then after that there was no way forward. And I wrote to Dr. Chan. I wrote to him. I have the letter. I can show it to you. And I recommended people like Mr. Rattigan and people like him who had a lot of experience, far more than any FBI, far more than anybody from Scotland Yard. And they wanted to give their things for free. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is this: why? Why didn't they want to accept this? What have they got to hide?
I want Rattigan back. I want Rattigan back because I have a question for him.
Right. So anyway, and to try to paint me as a fool, for example, or not necessarily a fool, but somebody who's not in the, what he doesn't understand, for example, in the statement he made that I'm not going to answer you directly, is that I'm a senior to the current commissioner by many years. You call me a senior? Yes, I am. Many years. And my training is different. And also, not only am I trained in the law and the principles of the law, and the only person who was trained as a police officer from the Jamaica Defense Force, military police, but we had to go through civilian training in England. I did a Royal Military Police Training School. And in addition to which, I've done many courses in that, and not only that, I've been a practicing person with criminology. So when I can critique, and furthermore, I didn't want to do the doctorate, but I ended up doing it. And, it has served me well in terms of analysis and what have you and so on. And sometimes people come on the radio when I'm on the radio and try to belittle and say, oh, you're not using any facts. Well, I'm not giving a speech and I am not on the radio. I'm simply evaluating something. So please don't expect me to. If you're debating, you want to debate me, let's go. You understand? So to cut a long story short, we have, if people like us can spend the time that we are spending to analyze what's happening in Jamaica, the least that our politicians can do is spend the time to listen. And that's the problem of the current government. They do not listen. for whatever reason, and so on. And I do believe that if the opposition needs to get a chance, they need to get up. They need to do it. They need to get themselves to show the government that, because let me tell you, the last poll showed that if the election was held now or sometime in the near future, they would win.
Yeah, but that's the poll is true. But I want you to
but before you go, we have Mr. Clark who just came on. I need to introduce him to everybody. He's on Sir Marcel Clark, chairman of the Crime Prevention Unit in St. Thomas, the great grandson of the man who lead the rebellion in Jamaica, Paul Bogle. Sir Clark, welcome to Make We Talk, sir. We're speaking about Jamaica. Is it on the brink of becoming a dictatorship?
Good night, everybody. Thanks for having me. Sorry to join late, but was busy all day traveling and so forth.
You travel with the Prime Minister going on, no.
You're not on camera. You're just talking to us. You're not on camera.
No, I can't turn on camera now.
No, because he's in Washington at the moment. Go ahead.
Oh, you're part of the delegation. Okay, cool.
No, don't listen to Jeffrey here.
But hold up, before I go any further, by the way, and I know we're having a program here, but I don't understand Wilfred Rattigan. He has this drink, every day the drink, put it back down right in front of us.
Oh, but the man is driving, we can participate in him driving.
Go ahead, Sir Clark.
Yes.
No, I'm listening now.
With the mouth full up.
Wilfred is eating. Me know say that the man I do.
The man
anyway, let us go back to the
let me just finish up the thing out.
He's not hungry, he can't help himself. He can't him just have in them.
Sir Clark.
Tell him the empty bag can't stand up, no man. Just tell him that no.
Yes, what is your views on it? The question we asked, is Jamaica and the brink of becoming a dictatorship, sir?
Let me word it very carefully. So I'm not misunderstood. I'm gonna speak in a positive light. I won't say it's on the brink, but there's a possibility. Knowing very well my Jamaican people, I don't think they will go back to the days of being oppressed. They will take things to a point and allow certain things to a point, but when it reaches a critical point, they will react. Right, they will react. And you see, what I know, is that you reap what you sow. And if you live by the gun, you die by the gun. And you see the same gun where the politician give them youth, the same going to turn back on them. Let me just put it as raw as that. But the writing is on the wall, because I've seen the Prime Minister announce new state of emergencies. And as far as I heard, the opposition said that they were not consulted. That is illegal. And it seems as if the Governor General is just rubber stamping stuff. Obviously, he does not know his role. So I think somebody needs to sit him down and to educate him of his role.
No. He knows his role. And the role is to sign off on anything that Andrew wants to start to him.
Well, somebody needs to remind him then. Let me say it that way then. Because
remind him about what?
You know what his role is? That is not, it's not a matter of rubber stamp, it's just advice. Advice, you don't necessarily take advice, You can receive it, but you don't have to act on it. You know what I'm saying? So I think somebody needs to engage the Governor General and bring awareness back to him. And in failing to do so, then we need to petition Buckingham Palace, because obviously he's not. We have lost confidence in him. That's bottom line. And I think somebody needs to move a constitutional motion in the court based on the Constitution. What the Constitution.
Jamaica for Justice I heard Miss Mikhail Jackson this morning, and I think they are contemplating that. Remember that it was Jamaica for Justice who took the Everton Douglas to the court, where the court ruled the way the SOE is being implemented unconstitutional. Not the SOE itself, as we have been saying over and over, but the way it is done, how it is being carried out. What I want to ask you, Marcel.
No, hold on. Remember, I'm going to say, hold on. There's a video that I have to show. We don't have enough time here. It's 9:42. Unless you all want to go until 10:30.
No, man. So hold the video. Make we deal with something with Marcel, because it's important.
Okay, go ahead.
Marcel,
Yeah,
you weighed in just now. We are getting from you the benefit of the eastern side of the island. You're a man on the ground and so on. Is this notion widespread that the Prime Minister is on a slippery slope, and people are seeing this as some kind of draconian measures that could basically be taken down the garden path of being crawling peg dictatorship we're seeing? What are you picking up on the ground?
All right, let me answer by saying this. For about maybe a month or two now, I observed strong military presence in St. Thomas. There is 2 Ratty patrol jeeps every night. When I'm heading east, it's going west, and they drive at reckless speeds. And it's like every night you see them. And sometimes you see them in the township, mostly at night. Very rarely you see them in the day, but mostly on a Sunday you'll see them in the day. And I understand that there's a couple of them milling around in the Seafort area. There was a joint military operation in the Yallas area early this morning, to be specific, an area called Amstead, that there was a joint military police presence there where they were raiding the area. So I am listening out for a SOE to be dropped somewhere in St. Thomas soon. And it may just be feeding into what the narrative of what you're just saying, Conrad, that is it sort of a control? Because I'm picking up that people are restive, are uncomfortable with some of what is happening with the way the government is operating, or the crime situation. And again, the SOE was so timely launched initially a couple of weeks ago, this a day after the taxi went on withdrawal of service. And it went into the areas that were strong, where a particular group from the taxis had strong support. It was just too convenient. So if you want to rebel, they suppress with a military presence. That's what I'm getting.
Oh my God! But I don't know. Hold on. Defender.
Yes.
You hear what the gentleman said a while ago?
Yes, I heard him.
That is dangerous, If we're putting military inside here, so know your place.
And the question must be asked also, why are they having this Zozo so often? Is it because, I don't know why this came to my head, Is it because they want to have aeroplane land somewhere and some things go on?
Achoo! Oh, sorry, my bad. I had to sneeze.
That's the question must be asked. Anyway, there is a voice note that I want to play that was sent to me by my good friend Conrad O'Brien. But a lady asking a question about this SOE. Can I play the voice note, sir?
Yeah, man.
Oh, yes, man.
Okay. Because Jamaicans are asking questions of this Prime Minister.
At the first me ever say this, you have a country where crime is plaguing it, right? And the very people them who supposed to be fighting the crime, is not them out there at talk about how them are going to fix the crime. At the Prime Minister of the country, so you can go some. No, the police them supposed to be out there on the front line. The police them supposed to deal with the crime in our country, but Andrew Honest is fighting the crime to no avail. Andrew Holness is coming over every day in front of podium about state of emergency. And when I hear nothing from the people them with them on the front line, I fight the war with the gunman them. We need to hear the police them, and the police them supposed to make every decision. Right? Andrew Holness, as the Prime Minister of the country, his job is to make sure that the police them have what they need. The police them have them resources, and them have a friend in the government to turn to when they need further resource or assistance to fight the crime. But Andrew Holness is fighting the crime from the Prime Minister's office with state of emergency. That is not how you run a government. Rattigan.
Natalie, you're...
Sorry about that. It is, you know something? Jamaicans have reached the point that I take off Wilfred Rattigan from eating.
You can play the response.
Jamaican has taken... Play a response?
You can play the response, man.
Okay, let us play Conrad response.
Absolutely correct, and it's a big point you're making, darling. And, you know, these are some of the ills that we're seeing carried out by Andrew, Michael, Brogard, Holness, you know, because it seems as if the police force are put on the back burner. Well, the fact is that we see where the Prime Minister is going. So basically, is the JDF basically running things. So maybe he's doing what he's doing for them in collaboration with the former JDF man, that is Commissioner of Police, and the Jamaica Defense Force. So they're acting in quotes to circumvent the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know.
That is, you see, Jamaicans are questioning the whole Zozo, Nene, BBCC, and all kind of Zozo crap in this country, you know. Conrad O'Brien?
Yes, indeed. And I tell you something, what is happening, I am seeing where Jamaicans that who are not living here in Jamaica, they take a keen interest in Jamaica. I can tell you that most time in the mornings, when I wake up, the first set of maybe 10, 15 text messages or voice note that I'm getting, it's from people who live in the diaspora, especially in the United States of America, who harbors the thoughts of coming back home, because at the end of the day, especially a lot of people who are in the cold area like now, New York and so on, that's cold, they are thinking about their paradise and they have it on their Jamaica on their radar to come home. But what they're seeing, they are so concerned. And I can tell you this, if you believe, as a matter of fact, Jamaican people are acting as if a number of them are happy. But people who are looking clinically and experience what it is to live in other jurisdictions, they are happy mad with what is taking place in Jamaica. I'm telling you. And that is why I made the point earlier that while there is Dr. Francis, that while a lot of work needs to be done by the opposition, the cup is being run over and a lot of people are feeling it. So although the amount of work is not yet on the ground by the opposition, but they could take power in Jamaica by way of default when the people go to the poll, because the people are upset. And before I close, what is happening here in Jamaica? The people overseas are feeling it because they are called up on by Jamaicans to make even more contribution because of the mayhem which the crime situation is driving, because everything is driving crime. A man who used to be out the road at certain hours a night and do a little hustling, so him could have make a little extra money to send him youth them at school. Him can't do that anymore. Say if him have a sister in New York or anywhere, him going, no, turn to that sister and say, sis, here what happened? You have to go send me 100 or 200 a week, you know. And sis may have her own situation up there. So they are feeling it. It's a double whammy.
And not only that, Conrad O'Brien, when you take the whole taxi thing in consideration, they're calling for a
payment plan.
A payment plan. And I don't hear nothing until this blessed day about the whole thing about getting the thing done. I don't know if Dr. Reverend Finnegan get anything from the powers maybe. Can Sir Clark, can you let me some more on that before I go any further with this?
You know, the gentleman from TAS been saying that the minister will make announcement Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday. The last time I checked.
The announcement that came out Tuesday night is that there will be a roundtable forum Thursday at Boulevard Baptist Church where you can ask and hear from the minister himself.
Okay.
I would be there. There's a big flyer going around and stuff. But to me, it's not a roundtable talk. They're saying it's a roundtable talk. The flyer sort of allude to something different. That is some road safety presentation. That's what I'm getting from it. But I won't hold my breath.
Road safety presentation for what?
Some road safety thing, some annual road safety. I'm going to send you the flyer.
Well, that TAD's put on?
Yes, I thought I put on this something tomorrow.
So that means TADS is bringing Audley to come there to give a presentation, but it's not really to talk about the payment plan.
No, but he's billing it like that. That's what it is. He's
that damn Jeffrey behave himself tonight.
That's what he's doing. He's playing around with it.
Because it's a promotional gimmick.
Exactly. So he'll get the crowd there, but they're not going to hear anything where they really want it. But I just want to backtrack a bit. What the lady said about the Prime Minister come in front of a podium and fighting crime. I just want you to rewind the tape back to the COVID period. You realize that the Prime Minister was the one that was leading the press conference.
Yes.
And if you look at the backdrop, the US had the White House in the backdrop, they had the Jamaica House in the backdrop. And the Jamaican flag was folded in such a way where there's more green showing than anything else.
Yeah, man.
And you look at the podium, how the podium was decorated.
Oh, come on, don't go down that road, man.
No, I'm telling you, hold on.
It's true. It's true. It was a kind of Trumpist thing when they imitate.
Right. And then what I'm trying to get at is that it was all a PR. It was all to make the Prime Minister look like he's in control and he's doing things. That's the message you're doing. And that's why he's the one always at the podium about crime. No. Now imagine they're paying a man 18 million a year.
So let me ask a question. With all fairness, let me ask a question. If you're only seeing Googie Gaga, the commissioner of no police at the podium chatting, what would you say then?
No, but
I don't see the Prime Minister.
That should be coming from him. He's the crime man or the Minister of Security.
Yeah, but I am asking you a question. If you are seeing the commissioner of no police at the podium speaking every minute of the day pertaining to crime, and you don't hear nothing from Andrew Holness, not a damn word coming out of his mouth, what would we say? What would all of us say?
I don't have a problem with him talking, but he's the one mostly talking. That's what I'm saying. That's the point. The point I'm trying to make. He's the one that's mostly talking. When it should be the Minister of Security and the Commissioner of Police. The Prime Minister.
Well, that is to show you now that we don't have a Commissioner of no police, and we don't have a Minister of National Security and Justice. That is why he has to be talking, and that's what's going on.
Oh, I see your point. But
Conrad O'Brien, you don't agree with me at all.
Well, it's not that I don't agree with you, because you're onto something, because the truth is that if you, and hence my reason for making the call that, you know, and I have no anything. I have nothing against either of these two gentlemen. You understand? I believe they are indeed Jamaicans that, you know, offer themselves for public service and so on and things like that. I'm talking about the Minister of National Security and indeed the Commissioner of Police, you know, but at times, from time to time, you peak, you get a job, you reach to a particular threshold and you bottom out. You just can't take it to the other level. It's like there are some people who will build a company to this level. But when you need to move the company to another level, you now have to basically bring in new skill set, new personnel. And I think that's probably where the Minister of National Security is and the Commissioner of Police. They have tried, they have done what they have to do, but time come, to borrow the PNP phrase, no pun intended, right? Time come. And we have to look at it clinically. Everybody who gets a job, they're evaluated by performance and deliverable. And I dare say, had the Commissioner of Police and the Minister of National Security employed in the private sector to move a company forward, and they perform the way that we are seeing with the security apparatus in Jamaica, what is taking place, they would have no job. And we have to treat it in that manner. You understand? People are dead in round here. People are dead in round here.
People are dead in.
People are dead in round here. All right?
Jeffrey.
Yes.
For me, you say, I don't like when a public official that is elected to office try to politicize things. I have an issue with that. You are elected to do a job for the people of Jamaica. It should not be about any particular party. And I think the time has come where I think the Prime Minister needs to change the Commissioner of Police and to change the Minister of National Security. I strongly believe that. I think they are well spent. And I think they have done their time. I think we need to look to somebody else, you know, and I'm the rebel, Mr. Rattigan. You understand me? But I really think they need to change them. But who's gonna bail the cat? That's the question. You know? Who's gonna really bail the cat? But Jamaica really need somebody that has the stomach to be the Minister of Security, and they need a commissioner that can stand up and get in the trenches and make a difference, come up with some new strategies. I think the SOE and the ZOZOs have played their part, and you know, time for to put them back into retirement, come up with something more. And you know, I support what the Federation man is saying. We need to get back to the community policing, because the police are disattached from the communities. They're just going in the denim suit and mask up and the roughness. Nobody's going to talk to them. They're not going to get information because of their approach. We need to get back to community policing, and they will push out the violence producers. They will. And, you know, just the way that earlier, you can't have 3.5 million people hostage looking for 300 people. That's ridiculous. That equation just don't work. It can't inconvenience 3.5 million people.
Gentlemen, hold on for me, Mercer Clark.
Let the law deal with them.
Yes, Sir Clark, hold on while for me, please. Sir Clark. Sir Clark.
The overtime that is going to Zozos and
Mr. Clark, are you hearing me?
Far outweigh them setting the task force in the
Clark, the moderator is asking you to hold on.
Clark, are you hearing me? I have with me a journalist out of Bermuda online, Christopher Thomas Christopher, good night to you, sir. Welcome to Make We Talk.
Good night, good night. How are you? Good night to all your online listeners.
Yes, and I have with me Wilfred Rattigan, a talk show host, former FBI agent and attorney at law, dubbed as the Rebel. I have with me Conrad O'Brien from Newstalk 93 FM, the fireman. I have with me also Dr. Rupert Francis,
Elder.
the chairman of the crime prevention unit. Sorry, the chairman of the diaspora task force in America. And I also have with me the great-great-grandson of Paul Bogle, who led a rebellion. We're speaking about, is Jamaica and ever becoming a dictatorship? What is your views on that, sir?
As I mentioned earlier, 3+ million Jamaicans will never allow Jamaica to become a dictatorship. There will be this. I mean, what context are people even saying that it's becoming a dictatorship?
Hold on. May I just jump in here quickly? What's the name of the gentleman again? Sorry, please.
Thomas Christopher.
Yep.
Christopher?
Yes,
Christopher
from
what?
Bermuda.
Yes, Thomas Christopher from Bermuda. He's a journalist.
Christopher, while we appreciate your weighing in, but may I ask your familiarity or connection to Jamaica and how well have you followed the Jamaican space?
Okay, does having 3 Jamaican children count? Does serving in the JDF count? Does having property in Portland and Kingston count?
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree that you have definitely come a reason.
You do remember what Peter Tosh said, no matter where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're African, right?
No. I'm not taking away from. It's just that context matters. So I just want to know. So you have now stated that basically you could be described as a naturalized Jamaican, because you mentioned you have.
Yes, please don't let the accent fool you.
No, I'm not making anything
Caribbean
at all,
people.
sir. I am asking a question. It's for you to answer. I'm asking you. I'm simply asking you your connection. If you to say to me that I'm a Jamaican or not, because I want to know. You were introduced as a Bermudian. That's why.
I said no. I said he's a journalist in Bermuda. I did not say he's from Bermuda. He's a journalist in Bermuda.
Well, maybe you should have gone further. You should say he's a Jamaican journalist in working in Barbados. No, you have to do it properly.
Yeah.
You have to do it properly.
Anyway,
yeah. Anyway, my brother, you know, the fact that you're
no man, allow him. No, make him go ahead, man, because I'm happy and I want to hear. I just wanted to know if it was a Jamaican brother or he was basically a Bermudian. Now I know what is that. Allow him to speak, man. I want to hear him.
I never said it wasn't allowed.
Man, let me contextualize it. Many Caribbean people have multi nationalities, if we want to split it down the middle like that. So let's not get hung up on nationalities or the accent. We're talking about a subject here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your views, my good friend Christopher, on the whole state of emergency in Jamaica?
Well, we have to recognize firstly that preservation of life is first and foremost. If we've reached how many murders we've reached in Jamaica for this year?
1,400 something, Conrad?
Yeah.
Right. So that I think the record a few years ago was 1,500 pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I think so, yes.
1,600, no, 1,600.
Right. So
1647.
Okay. So the state of emergencies, as per the latest edict from the current prime minister, is that it seems like almost every parish has got a state of emergency. Somewhere, and coming into Christmas is going to feel like dictatorship because people are just freeing up from COVID and whatever else, and now you're locking down parties 12 o'clock or what, I don't know the exact time, but it's good. It can be feel like a dictatorship. But then we have to ask ourselves, is this the only way to preserve life? Because if I intend to kill somebody, I don't need a state of emergency to stop me from killing somebody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
you're definitely onto something there,
Sorry.
Christopher. I'm saying you're definitely onto something, but also one of the things that we must bear in mind, and it's a big lie being told, the state of it is sold to the Jamaican people in the main. That's the only way that you can have saturation of police and military personnel in community is by way of a state of emergency, and it is just not true. The only thing that the state of emergency gives, it gives the police and the military person all a blanket check, the right to abuse and to do whatever they want to do. So it's also a kind of lazy security apparatus. Give them out there, send them out there so they can do anything they want. And I think it is unfair to the majority of our people, but they don't know better because it is sold to them that this is the only way you can have police in your community.
But you know, I'm going to say, I've said this before, and I'll say this again, and you look it up, it's in the law. The police, the soldiers are to be deployed in aid of the civil power only. I mean, unless there is a state of emergency as such, right? But otherwise, they're only deployed, in other words, when to shore up the police force, all right? And I'm saying to you, he has 3 sons in the Jamaica Defense Force, and we have our own military. I was head of the military police force there at one time. But the fact of the matter is that, and state of emergencies is when it has gotten to the point where it has reached like a point of no return. To use it on a regular basis as it has been used is, yes. To use it in a way the way it has been used is counterproductive because it takes away that oomph away from it, and that's why in the old days.
We're not seeing your face, Dr. Francis.
No. That's why in the old days, the soldiers were so not feared, but revered, because they would not see them all the time. But when familiarity breeds contempt, so you have them out there now, and they're seen as human. They're after the girls, they're after this, they're after that meme, take a little lunch from somebody, whatever it is. And they're seen as human, and now they're approachable and they can do whatever. You've seen the videos, and that's what has happened. They have watered it down. The Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security should not have allowed
it. And give them phone charger, I beg them a charge.
Exactly, and all that. And then you want to go and abuse them afterwards. It doesn't make sense. But I'm just saying to you, right, it still does not reach that peak where you can use the police, the soldiers are being used. Of course, it can be done. If you remember the words of Rocky Mead at one stage, he said that, he almost said we could take away the rights of the people at one stage. And they tried to get him on the secretary, and he refused because he recognized that he could not go down that political path. Okay? And so, gentlemen, one thing I'm going to tell you about the Jamaica Defense Force. It is one very, patriotic institution. No other institution in Jamaica can match the Jamaica Defense Force when it comes to that. No other. Okay? No other. Otherwise. What?
It is now 10 minutes after 10 o'clock.
That's my view.
We have been at it from 7 o'clock this evening. We're talking about is Jamaica on the verge of becoming a dictatorship based on what the Prime Minister is doing. It is in the Constitution to have state of public emergency, but is it a continuous thing to fight the crime pandemic in our country?
No.
And infringing on the fundamental rights of the Jamaican people by this Prime Minister. We have with us Wilfred Rattigan, talk show host, former FBI agent, and attorney at law. We have with us Conrad O'Brien, talk show host of Newstalk 93 FM. Dr. Rupert Francis, Marcel Clark.
Yes.
Your final word before we go, because it is now minutes after 10 o'clock. Wilfred Rattigan full for him belly already. Your final word, Sir Clark, before we go.
All right.
And before you do that, I must say we're very listening, watching from around the world on the Eastern Caribbean. Our friends on the YouTube page, please like, share, and subscribe. That's all we're asking you to do. Like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Because come this Sunday evening, you're going to have with us again. As a matter of fact, come tomorrow evening at 4 o'clock, you're going to have Wilfred Rattigan, Jeffrey Tavares, Conrad O'Brien on Global Radio. With the reason with Rattigan, it will be live on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel also.
Saturday, not tomorrow, Saturday.
Tomorrow is what, Friday?
No, Thursday.
Tomorrow is Thursday. Oh, Lord. I mean, Saturday. Sorry, Saturday. I'm getting old, you know. Dr. Francis is getting young. I'm getting old. So we're going to speak on that. We're going to speak on the, we're going to speak with Wilfred Rattigan on Friday evening, Saturday evening rather. Saturday evening at 4 to 7 o'clock or 4 to 6 o'clock, is it?
4 to 6.
4 to 6. Gentlemen, your final word before we go. Caller, thank you for calling in. Christopher,
Respect.
thank you very much for calling
Yeah,
in.
man.
Thank you.
All right, respect. Good night, everybody.
Okay, Chris, all the best and take care. Very good.
Yes, Jeffrey, my time.
Your final, yes, your final word for before we go. Final word.
My final word is I agree with Dr. Francis about overexposure of the military to the public. I think it was a couple of months ago or early this year. There was some sort of curfew in the Yalas area, and one soldier like off a young lady in the area, and he went back to visit, and the man them gang him and box him up, saying him for coming to the area. The next morning was a massive military operation on the same street. But is Jamaica on the verge of dictatorship? The writing is on the wall. I want to speak positive. I'm not going to say it is, but there is a particular writing on the wall that would indicate that there is a strong possibility. I see a lot of human rights violation. I see constitutional breaches. I see overhandedness of the government in certain areas. Essential service as the transportation sector do a withdrawal of service, and their response is, we're not going to bow to no group. And you didn't say it once, you said it more than once. I wonder what is the line of thinking, or what is the modus operandi they're operating from? Is it that they're not taking a talk from nobody? They want to go as a government, or they represent the country? Thank you.
I don't know what's going on with Dr. Sir Clark phone.
Somebody calling in, man.
It's gone down. Dr. Francis, your final word before we go, sir.
Well, I would like to say, boy, you know, you owe me for 3 hours of chatting tonight, and
that's very good. You don't normally come on here. You only go on the big radio stations. Them. Go ahead. Your final word.
I would send my fees, and my attorney with this time might bear me out. That is Will Rattigan, but I'm going to have to fire him if he don't have it. But anyway, I tell you, we must continue to fight the good fight. I heard Brother Rattigan tonight, myself and himself out there. And I think, I was trying to save them a little bit until the lady got a little bit pesky, right? And then Ratty had to put her straight. And then I had But I really, I was just trying to, but you can't say it in a nice way. Jamaica is on a track that we wanted to come off that track. It's the wrong one, and you're right in asking that question. And I don't believe that it is going to happen, but it could happen. And that in itself is very scary. And it seems to me that the Prime Minister is getting a little bit heady, getting overhead, and he's protecting people. I have never seen a Prime Minister with so many portfolios, in his own arsenal there. And I'm telling you, I've reached out in every way, shape, or form. So listen, the people in the diaspora are getting restless. That's the final point I'm making. They're restless. Okay, listen to them. Okay, you can't divide and rule them forever. And that's where we have reached. So that's where I hope they will change. And I hope that he will reverse his position as to where the dons are and look at his feet and around him, and he may see them once and for all. Maybe if he needs glasses, he can borrow mine, even at my age. Take care. Thank you.
But you know the funniest thing, Dr. Francis, before I ask the rebel to come in, I want to leave the best for last to the Iron Man of the moment, the fireman.
Yes.
Dr. Francis.
Yes.
You believe that the Prime Minister and the government gonna want to listen to the diaspora? All they want is the money. Anyway, Wilfred Rattigan, your final word.
Yes. Again, thanks for having me. And regards to my fellow panelists and regards to your listening audience. Concerning the question as to whether or not Jamaica is going down the path of dictatorship, as I said in my opening remarks, I'm not thinking like that. And I'm hoping it doesn't. Constitutionally, it cannot happen constitutionally. But what is happening constitutionally is that we see a militarization of the police. We see Mocha being run by military people or a military man. We see, we saw earlier where the Plan Secure Jamaica, the National Crime Plan, National Security Plan for Jamaica, the implementation phase of it was under the supervision of a JDF colonel. We saw where the Prime Minister created an office called the Office of National Security Advisor, and he staffed it with a military man. We saw where he took that same military man and then he moved him over to, of course, with the consent of the Police Services Commission and the Governor General, he moved him over to the police, to the JCF. So I don't think, having said that, I don't think, and there are other examples of military people, I believe, occupying offices of significance. I don't believe that it will be a dictatorship, but I see where the freedoms that we take for granted, to use a phrase that's in the Constitution and popularized by my brethren, the fireman, those rights will be abrogated and abridged. And there's another one, I can't remember the third one, but that's where we have to be careful, because when you look at the new Bail Act, where they're essentially saying that they can scoop you up in a SOE, and if they think that, if they believe that you're involved in a criminal act, murder, for example, they can hold you. They don't have to charge you. They can detain you and hold you, try to develop evidence, and there's no time limit. Now, of course, you'll have the chance for bail from a JP or a constable above, a superintendent or above, and then after that, 48 hours, then you go before a judge. But if the government makes a convincing argument that, look, we believe that this man was involved in a criminal act, and so we need the time to develop the information so that we can arrest him, we can charge him, then you're going to sit in jail for a long, long time. So when you see these draconian measures, you have to say, well, maybe not dictatorship, but it's certainly not a pure democracy, because we're seeing where rights are being infringed upon and there is no end in sight. It just gets worse and worse. And with the crime problem escalating and the fact that they don't have an answer, the only thing they're going to do is to create or engage in human rights abuse, because they realize that talking is not going to solve the problem. And they're not leading, they're managing, and they're not doing a great job. Because if you listen to that patriot, Constable Corporal, our chairman, Corporal Rowan James, if you listen to him, you'll understand that the policemen and women have been given a basket to carry water. They're not getting the resources they need to get the job done. And they've been clamoring, crying, begging, pleading, cajoling, and they're still not getting the resources. So in the final analysis, I don't like where Jamaica is going, but I don't think it's going to be a dictatorship, simply because the king is not going to allow it. And I don't think the U.S. government is going to allow it either. But we're going down a dangerous path, and hopefully, the sooner we can resolve these issues, the better. And I'm really hoping that the Prime Minister is able to get some things done. You know, now that he's here, he's like 6 years late, but he's here, and I'm hoping that he can get some substantive results to go back home and try and curb that monster called crime and criminality. Thank you very much for having me again, Defender, and good night to everyone, including fellow panelists. But I'll stick around and hear the rest of it. I'm going to listen to the fireman, and then we'll see what happens after that.
We come on here every time we can to speak about the issues that face our country. And sometimes we talk off here and we talk amongst ourselves. I never said this to you all. I am a Tavares. Yes, you all know that. But my heart grieves a lot of times when I listen to the Parliament of Jamaica. And you see what is going on in your country. Whether your family members or people who you know, or people who you don't even know, are faced with certain human rights problems. It brings tears to your eye. It is enshrined in the American Constitution. And maybe Wilfred Rattigan can repeat this for me. You have the right to life, liberty,
the pursuit of happiness.
And the pursuit of happiness. Those were the words of Thomas Jefferson. And the former talk show host, the late Wilmot Perkins, keep on putting this in our head in Jamaica. We have the right for freedom. We have the right to walk around. We also have the right to speak out. And I'm saying this evening to bring on a man who his voice is champion for poor people in our country. I used to dub a good friend of mine the next Mutty Perkins. But I'm dubbing this man tonight. I don't know if you see this to Mutty or not. A lot of people don't like certain things that Mutty have said. But I'm going to dub him as the next Mutty Perkins or the next Baba Tunde. Winston Witter. The late Winston Witter of blessed memories. May God rest his soul and may he rest in peace. the fireman, Conrad O'Brien from Newstalk 93 FM. And I say all of this because you know what? Between Wilfred Rattigan, myself, and Conrad, I know for myself, I think about my country a lot. And I keep on saying this to my fellow Jamaicans. We come here by labor pain, not by aeroplane. This rock belongs to us. Conrad, your turn.
Indeed. I want to say thanks to you, my friend and brother. And you almost pulled me to tears, especially when you mentioned my good friend, late good friend, very good friend indeed, Winston Babatunde Witter. My only regrets is that, well, one of my regrets is that during his later years, we did not talk as much as we used to. And also Mr. Perkins, legendary Wilmot Perkins. Of course, I listened to him. I remember, as a matter of fact, he and the late Barbara Gluda, they are some of my mentor, you know, because I listen to them attentively. And certainly, while you may have differences as we do with people, but there are skill set and talent that you really just have to admire. And Wilmot Perkins was indeed a rare talent. And I must say, I am quite heartened because apparently there is something in me that people see from time to time, because it's a kind of accolade and a comparison that people make for some reason, but to God be the glory. Now, I want to say I'm always due the opportunity to be with yourself, Jeffrey Tavares, the defender, a man who really and truly, of my own heart, speak truth to power. My brother, Wilfred, the defender, Rattigan.
No, the rebel.
Indeed, the rebel. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The rebel. Oh my goodness. I am passing the buck. The rebel. And, you know, I admire Wilfred in such a way because indeed, he is a patriot. He is the kind of person that one gets the impression that he is forever giving. He pours himself out. And it's with a heavy heart when you recognize the skill set, the talent of a gentleman of the ilk of Wilfred Rattigan, who offer himself to serve his country. And while not given the job, because nobody have any divine birthright in getting a particular job, but after, you know, offering himself and not getting that position, but with the skill that he possessed, he has not been reached out to and say, my friend or brother, you did not make it to the Commissioner of Police, but we believe that based on your training, your intellectual acumen, etc., we believe that you can make a contribution. You have gone to the United States, a part of the diaspora, and continue to fly the flag of Jamaica high. And of course, my good friend, Dr. Francis, again, a patriot, a man who's always offering himself to Jamaica, and someone that I really admire in a big way. And what can I say about my brother and friend, the son, the great-great-grandson of my hero, one of the great hero, one of the hero that truly deserved his space of being called a national hero in Jamaica. I'm talking about no other than the man who led the Morant Bay rebellion and was hung on the gallows, Paul Bogle. I want to say hail the man, and we admire the fact that we have someone from his lineage among us. In terms of Jamaica being on the road to be a failed state, we're seeing too many things that resembles that. And one would talk about a crawling peg, because all the dictatorship that we have witnessed around the world, it didn't happen overnight. It's small things, your rights being whittled away, bit by bit, until tomorrow, when you could walk freely from Greenville in Manchester to Hatfield. You can't do it no more because there are stumbling blocks and lines of demarcation that you cannot go through. And I want to say that Mr. Andrew Michael Holness, he's our Prime Minister. One have to really give him his accolades. A young man out of Spanish Town. And through his ambition, has risen to the pinnacle of our parliamentary system, political system, of being the head of the executive. No matter what, you have to take your hat off to him. Do you agree with what he is doing? And is he above criticism? Absolutely not. And I think that Mr. Holness have to understand this, that the higher the monkey climbs, the more it exposes. The more lofty your position is in terms of the political arena, then people will have to ask questions of you. People will question whatever you're doing. The fact that we say, and I'm speaking collectively for all of us and others, we say that, Mr. PM, the state of emergency is not the way to go. You're robbing us of our rights and our freedom. Take a chill pill and relax. You can listen to us. You don't have monopoly on ideas. Listen, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And listen is a virtue. To listen, it's a virtue. And I will basically implore the Prime Minister so to do. We ourselves, we have a role to play. We have a role to play in terms of fostering the democracy. We must take our rights and freedom and we must guard them zealously. We must also be appreciative that we're able to go to the poll and change a government. We can go out and vote. Let us admire and let us respect the fact that we can do that and exercise our rights. Don't get into this apathetic thing and say you're not going to vote. Also, whenever we put persons in office, as we have done with Mr. Holness, and you're not cutting it, we must examine that. And it doesn't matter if you were one of those who vote for him. If time come. Sometimes somebody take you to a particular level and someone has to basically take the baton. That's why you have a relay. 4 people run it. You have a relay. So you pass the baton. And maybe just Mr. Holness has taken us to this juncture. and he is fatigued, he is frustrated, he is feeling the heat in the kitchen. And there's a good soul saying that if you can't take the heat in the kitchen, then you must get out. I end by asking the question, is it time for the Wholeness Administration to pack its bag and go? Because based on what we're seeing, frustration creeping in and all of that, he may just be the proverbial cow that give a pail of milk and kick it over. I believe that the people of Jamaica will hold strain, both at home and in the diaspora. And the people will save Jamaica ultimately from being a dictatorship. I rest my case. I want to say thanks for having me this evening. And remember to join me Monday and Tuesday on the 93 FM band right here in Jamaica, Newstalk 93, broadcast live from the University of the West Indies Mona campus from 9 until 12. And indeed, I crave your indulgence. You can also get me on the Conrad O'Brien Facebook page. And let me take the time to remind you that come Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we will be on with Reason with Rattigan and Global Reggae Radio 24 from 4 until 6 p.m. I feel the zeal, the zest, and the courage in my bone. I know that there are people who are saying that, Conrad, you push the envelope. But I made a pledge. I will speak truth to power no matter who the guy is. If it is Mark Jefferson Golden who will lead the People's National Party, and I must talk against him and point out the ills that he is doing, I will do it. If it's Andrew Michael Wholeness, I will do it. My brothers, my friends, God bless you all. Take care.
Thank you. Don't leave us yet. My final word to my fellow Jamaicans. I grew up in Negril. I grew up in a very good home. My grandmother, my godmother. I didn't grow up with a mother. I love my two twin aunties who helped raise me, along with another auntie of mine, Maria, Juliet, and Leela. My uncle Danny, I call him Chambone. And I was helped raised by some well-known people in Westmoreland. The late Costa to the parish of Westmoreland, Jim Thompson, and Lady Thompson. They taught me a lot. I developed the love of politics with a good friend, a mentor. He died on Friday night at the University of the West Indies Hospital, Mr. Russell Hammonds.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard about his death, it brought tears to my eye. Russell Hammonds was the first individual who put me in a political platform to speak at a political meeting in Little London, Westmoreland. When he came to me and said, Jeffrey, you have anything to say? I said to him, no, me, no. He said, no, you can do it. And I went on that political platform and I spoke. When I finished, I said to him, I did badly, I did poorly. He said, no, you did very good. I said this to say all of this. I grew up among some people who have Jamaica interests and the poor people of this country at heart. And I developed a love of giving. I may have the name of a Tavares who said people say they're in politics and wealthy off and all sort of gibberish. But I heard Michael Manley said something in a speech. I'm gonna come off now, Ratty. I know you're scratching your head, you want to go sleep. Michael Manley said that if you don't love the people, don't enter politics. If you don't love the people, do not attempt to enter the political arena. And I'm saying this tonight. All three of us here, all four of us here, all five of, well, how much are there? Five over here. And I speak for myself, I know that. And I know Rattigan is the same way. So is Conrad, so is Dr. Rupert Francis, so is the great-great-grandson of Paul Bogle. I love my country. I love my country. And you hear me come on here and I speak about things of the Labour Party. Let me make something clear to you all. I am not trying to bring down Michael Andrew Holness' government. I am not trying to speak ill of them. No. What I'm saying, you swear to the Constitution of this country that you will defend, uphold the constitutional rights of Jamaicans. It can't be that our people are going through turmoils after turmoils with gunmen and gun this and gun that. And the only thing you have in your arsenal is the Zozo to infringe on the fundamental rights of Jamaicans.
State of emergencies.
The state of emergency, rather. And also a bail act, a trafficking system that doesn't work. Huh? And you all claim that you love the people of this country? You all claim that you professed Prime Minister Holness when Portia Lucretia Simpson Miller was leaving Parliament, her final speech to the Parliament and the people of Jamaica. You said to her that she should not worry herself because you, Michael Andrew Holness, is a defender for poor people in this country. Are you? Are you truly the defender of poor Jamaicans in this country? I respect you, sir. You know me and I know you. I am not trying to speak bad of you. I am not trying to bring down your government. What I'm trying to do, sir, remember where you're coming from. Remember the oath you make to the people of this country. That's all I'm saying to you. And for all those who cares have been our cause, the work goes on, the cause endure, the hope still lives, and the dream for a better Jamaica shall never die. This man sitting here, this young man sitting here, Jeffrey Tavares, will never stop speaking out for my fellow Jamaicans. It's a cause that I'm prepared to die for.
We say integrity, 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 integrity.
That is what I have to say to you all tonight. until you hear my voice again, till you hear from us again. May God bless Jamaica. May God bless the people of our country. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. I'm going to play a part of a song before I go by Ernie Smith. And the song is that as we fight for power.
As we fight one another for the power, the glory, the kingdom goes to waste.
Another old man that I went to school with.
You know just where we're going. Right now we have our tied behind the back, while certain people keep on butting. Where do we stand? And if we're getting anywhere, we have too much to change. Not to know a possibility, unchangeability. Violence and crime is commonplace in these said times. Oh man.
This is where I say good night to you all. Dr. Francis, you were saying something before I go? Unmute your mic, Dr. Francis.
I'm saying I went to school with him and he's an old man too, Ernie Smith. See? All right. So almost sit on the same bench. All right, good. Take
All
care.
my viewers on Facebook and YouTube, especially YouTube, like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you all, my friends, my panelists for coming on. Thank you all. My family, my wife-to-be, and everyone. Thank you all for coming on. May God bless you all. As what the former GG, Sir Flowers or Glasswell said, may God bless you all.
You mean there's somebody gonna marry you? Rasta George. Sorry.
Dr. Francis, have a good night, Dr. Francis.
You go on, man. Hey, Ratty, may I have a chat?
Oh, Jesus. Sorry. I meet you by mistake. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, Ratty. Me just want to talk to you. Make a call you. Okay, Conrad, thank you very much. Brother, Clark, is it? Okay, thank you very much. And Brother Tavares, stop calling me old man.
All right, young man, Francis.
That is better. My children will prefer that. Catch you later. Have a good one.
Sir Clark, have a good night, my friend.
Yeah, man. Blessings, man. Shalom.
Like, share.